As it is 5:30, we will call the regular meeting of the City Council for the City of Lacombe, May 13th. It is 5:30. We have a very full agenda ahead of us this evening, including a public hearing, which may draw some attention. So we definitely want to give the most of our attention to all of those components. First order of business. Wish to read out the land acknowledgement. The City of Lacombe acknowledges that we work, live, and govern on the shared territory of Treaty 6. We honor the histories, languages, cultures, and continuing contributions of the Cree, Saulteaux, Dene, Nakota Sioux, and other First Nations, as well as the Métis people of Battle River Territory District 3 and beyond. We affirm our ongoing relationship with this land and commit to the respectful and meaningful engagement with Indigenous peoples as partners in our community. So the first item of business then is to review our agendas, specifically first the consent agenda. Does anyone have anything they wish to pull out or willing to make the motion to adopt the consent agenda? Councillor Span.
I'll make the motion to adopt the consent agenda.
As presented. See no further comments. I'll go ahead and call the question. Please vote.
For.
There we go. Just for those that are not present and perhaps even those that are, you'll see that Councillor Contenti is not present in person. However, he does join us online. So I was just a slight delay there while we were waiting for his vote to get entered. That is unanimous for the consent agenda. That does then take us to the regular agenda. Do I have any additions, corrections? Motion to adopt as presented. Councillor Goins.
I move that we adopt the regular agenda as presented.
Very well. I don't see any further lights on, so no further discussion. I'll go ahead and call the question. Please vote.
Or.
And that is passed unanimously, I think, probably. Yes, 7 in support. All right, that will take us then into our presentations. We do have 2 of them. Our first presentation is the Lacombe Flying Club. So I would invite Mr. Frum and anyone else that he wishes to bring along with him to the table to introduce themselves and to begin their presentation.
Madam Mayor, councillors, my name is John Frum. I'm the president of the Lacombe Flying Club. With me tonight is Stephen Little, the Flying Club treasurer. I'll let Stephen give you a brief rundown of the Flying Club financial statement for 2025, as well as the budget for 2026. And then I'll just give you an update on goings on.
Good evening, everyone. Do we have the slide presented or is it just on paper?
Administration, do we know if we have this on a slide? I believe everybody has a copy of it on paper.
Okay, sure.
Okay.
So I'll go over the profit and loss briefly. Page 1 has the first 7 months, and the first page is the net income. Anywhere from, you know, the avgas, hangar taxes, memberships, etc. It varies quite a bit by month depending on whether or not we buy fuel. Below that is the cost of goods sold, avgas, maintenance, etc., and electrical power, water, sewer, garbage, equipment repairs, and the total cost of goods sold. And then across from gross profit, you can see by month what the gross profit is. And then the last area is part of the expenses. Things like coffee, socials, licensing, and et cetera, telephone, Twinkle Tours, and then the very bottom shows the net income. Is there any questions on the first page?
Nope.
Okay, second page is the last 5 months of the year, with the far right column being the total. So we can see exactly how much we made from our avgas sales. Now that's gross. We do provide sales discounts if people are members and they pay by debit. They get a discount. If they're not members, then you do get a small discount if you pay by debit because there's less fees. And then of course with credit card, there's no discount. This has our hangar taxes recovered, which the total usually lines up with what our annual tax bill is for the airport. We are able to reclaim all of that. And so that has our total income. On the very right is the total for the year in income. And then moving down to the cost of goods sold. Same area, water, sewer, hangar taxes, et cetera. And the total cost of goods sold for the year. And then below that, gross profit for the year. And then our expenses towards the bottom. Showing the net income. And then the very bottom right number is our net income for the year. Any questions with any of those? Okay, so page 3 is our budget. You can see the actual 2025 numbers and then what our budget 2026 is. For fuel sales, it's kind of an unknown. I mean, we're selling gas right now for $1.95 a liter, and that could go up to $2.40 or $2.50, which might slow things down. If the price recovers and people are doing good, they might fly more. It's one of those things you just don't know. So our hangar rental, we increased our hangar rent and as well as our hangar leases. You can see that right below the other sales revenue line. So we'll have more revenue coming in. We want to be able to start saving up and we need to have our share of the money for any capital projects we do. So that was a primary reason for the increase. Bottom of that page shows the total revenue actual for 2025 and then what we're budgeting for 2026. And on the fourth, sorry, any questions on that page, first page of the budget? Okay, so then the next page is the expenses showing our cost of goods sold for the avgas, merchant fees. We pay fees every month, anywhere from $200 to $400 for using our online payment. Fuel system repairs and maintenance, which is kind of a given. Cost of fuel, you can see that's kind of a big chunk of it. And then the hangar taxes, it usually, like I said, works out exactly to what our tax bill is going to be. Electrical power and electrical power reimbursed. Water, sewer, garbage that we pay. And then airport maintenance, third line from the very bottom there. It's around the 30,000 mark. And then our flying breakfast fundraiser, we expect to see very similar numbers. We've been very close between 900 and 1,000 people every year for the past few years. So. And then, so the very bottom of that shows our total cost of goods sold. That could vary widely, especially with the price of fuel. We just don't know what it's going to do, where that's going to go. Hopefully down, but it hasn't so far. And then the very last page shows our general and administrative expenses. There are no bookkeeping expenses, donations, fuel, internet. Internet is required for our fuel system. Office supplies like ink and printing to print out these forms and stuff. And then our Twinkle Tours sums up our total general admin and expenses, our total expenses, excess of revenue over expenses, less any capital projects. And then on the bottom, we have our gross excess of revenue over expenses budgeted. It is quite a bit more than last year. And a lot of that is we doubled our Our membership fees from $100 to $200 a year. Hangar leases went up 25%, and then there was one other increase. I can't remember what it was.
Hangar rent
Hangar rent as
on the
well.
club.
We have a club hangar that has spots for 4 airplanes, and we've increased that rent as well, so. And this year, our master plan is, well, the 11,250, the $45,000, that's actually a typo. We don't think the master plan is gonna cost that much, but we have a few options anyways for it.
It's going to be very close to that.
Yeah. Any questions on any of it? Okay. I'll
Councillor
ask some-
Dykeslag.
I have a quick question for you.
Sure, sure.
How many hangars are located at the airport? How many
Currently
hangars do you have?
45.
45. Wow, that's more than I thought. And also I see that you are going to have either a big jump in membership expectation, or was that the increase that you guys were describing,
that-
or both?
We've actually seen a slight membership decrease.
Okay.
But with the 100% increase in membership fees, we're still expecting about a 75% increase.
How many members do you have?
I think right now 88,
Excellent, thank you.
89.
I don't know a lot about the airport, so I appreciate you answering those questions for me. Just
Yeah.
want to learn. Thanks.
You're welcome. Okay, I'll hand it over to John. Thank you.
All right.
Can I just jump in with?
Oh,
financial?
yes, sorry, Councillor
Yeah,
DeBresser.
thank you. Yeah, my question is related to our reserves. Good for Fiscal Management has reserves. Looking at the revenue excess over expenses, does the Flying Club have excessing reserves for capital projects that may come down the pipe?
Yes.
Okay, do we know any idea of the amount, or is that?
Yeah, our fuel account is at around 160,000, and our general operating account is around 212.
Okay, thank you.
Today.
Looks like you can continue.
Okay. So just to give you a brief, pardon me, a brief rundown on club activities lately. In December of 25, we held the Twinkle Tours Food Bank fundraiser again. This year we took 52 people for rides. We also, some of the fuel was, which is factored into the price of the Twinkle Tours. A lot of the fuel was actually donated by the pilots this year. So I believe our donation to the food bank was, yeah, sorry, around $4,000. So I think over the last 10 years, that makes it a little over 50,000. Anyway, it was a good, successful season. Everyone enjoyed it once again. Hopefully we can do it again this year. So on to current events. The next event happening at the airport is the Discover Aviation event, where pilot volunteers take kids between the ages of about 9 and 18 for usually what ends up being their first airplane ride. I think so far we've taken about 300 kids for their first airplane rides. We're expecting about 125 more this year. That's going to be held on Saturday, June the 6th. And feel free to join us if you're able, especially if you have kids. Sign them up. The next event we're having, of course, will be our fly-in breakfast, Sunday, July 12th. This will be the 62nd annual fly-in breakfast. We did have to miss one due to COVID, but yeah, we're expecting another beautiful, sunny, warm day, and and another good turnout. So, just to bring you up a little further, we do have a new hangar being built this summer, at least one. We've already signed the lease and everything, so there will be one more hangar minimum constructed this summer. And that will be a privately owned hangar with a business moving into it. The gentleman building the hangars opening an engine repair facility. Anything else you might like to know? Any questions?
Any questions online from Councillor Contenti? It's a little bit harder for you to get our attention if necessary.
Oh, I know how to get your attention, Mayor. No
Okay.
questions for me, thanks.
No problem. Does not appear to be any questions. You're getting off lightly.
Great, I appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you for your presentation
All right.
today.
Thank you very much.
Our second presentation of the evening is affordable housing. Affordable Housing Steering Committee. I would invite Ms. Lindell to come forward and any other one that she has that's part of the presentation. So if you could just please have a seat. You will press the button that's on that microphone in front of you there. The machine will glow red when you've activated. There you go. And if you
Okay.
could just please introduce yourself, and then the floor is yours to start your presentation, please.
Okay. Hello, counselors and staff and the community. My name is Lindell Cave, and I am the chair of the Affordable Housing Steering Committee. And I'll just let you introduce yourself.
And I'm Ruben Kelly, vice chair of the committee.
I think I will probably be doing most of the talking today. And Ruben's just here for support and to jump in if I miss anything. So if we can go to the next slide, most of my information is on the slides. So the Affordable Housing Steering Committee is responsible for, do we need, oh, fancy. Okay. Is responsible for looking at ideas and options around affordable housing and bringing it to City Council. So we are not responsible for making decisions around housing, but we do a lot of research and talking about ideas, pursuing grants, looking into various options, sometimes sending out requests for proposals, that sort of thing. So I guess I will, okay. So who are we? We have 11 members on our committee. So we have 3 citizens at large from the community. We have 2 city council members, 1 member of city staff, and then we have people from local organizations, Lacombe FCSS, the Broomtree, Central Alberta Youth Unlimited, and the Bethany Group. So our Broomtree members are officially counted as citizens at large, but I've grouped them under local organizations because they tend to talk more about Broomtree things than general community options. So just a quick answer to talk about what affordable housing is. We have this housing continuum, which is from, I think, a Government of Canada graph that goes from unhoused all the way up to market home ownership. And so in Lacombe and with our committee, our focus is on the 3 areas where we see the arrows. So there are a few unhoused people in Lacombe, but the needs are high, the numbers are small. Probably, and then we have a fair amount of the population in Lacombe with significant housing and support needs. So those are the kinds of housing that would go into transitional housing or social housing where people are supported by staff in the building or and then we have our arrow is pointing to affordable rental housing. And this is our greatest need for community growth. It is where we have probably the most demand and the least amount of supply. So that's kind of where our focus is at the moment. Yeah, I don't know if we have any questions about this before we move on. I feel like it's important to talk about what affordable housing is because that's kind of our mandate.
Carry on.
Okay,
Yep.
we'll carry on. So to cover what we've done in the last year in 2025, we met about every 3 months and our group experienced a lot of changes. We've had most of the group has changed over actually, except for our few permanent members. We have a new chair and vice chair. Both of us are new this year. And we have a new city council now. And our budget has changed and our focus on what is the group doing has changed and is changing. So this is just some of the stuff that the Affordable Housing Steering Committee was doing as I joined. So there's the Lacombe Hub, which is affordable housing in what used to be the Lacombe Hotel downtown, which is going extremely well. Lots of people in the buildings. I don't think there's been much of a vacancy rate at all. And the people who live there are very much enjoying where they live and overall a great thing. Way back in the day, Youth Unlimited worked with the Affordable Housing Steering Committee for one of their housing projects. And that project came to an end, so we did receive money back from that project, which I will explain more about what we did with that later. And then we also have the 2019 Affordable Housing Strategy, which has been very useful for us figuring out what our focus is going forward. So the big thing that we did in 2025 was figured out what we wanted to do with this Youth Unlimited money that we had. We sent out requests for proposals, and the Broomtree Foundation in Lacombe has an affordable housing project. Actually, they like to call it Attainable Housing Project, to build a bunch of units to support women and families. And so they made a proposal, and we as a committee unanimously voted that we recommend to council that they take this money from Youth Unlimited and put it towards the Broomtree project. At the moment, the Broomtrees project they have land secured, they have a company and a contractor that they would like to work with to build these units. Community support is very high, but there is some government funding that fell through, so they are investigating options, but they are quite confident in the support of the community. And they were hoping to go ahead this summer, with building, but I think things have been delayed somewhat. So that is the big thing from 2025 that we are very proud of. Other important things that we did in 2025 are cross-pollination between agencies. So I think this is one of the strengths of the Affordable Housing Steering Committee, that it brings together a lot of people who are interested in housing in Lacombe. So we have our council members, we have city staff, and we have local organizations, and we have interested community members. And as a result, we can bring in our connections and our ideas and really get a lot more done than if each of us were working on our own. We have also been investigating various Government of Canada grants, because there are federal housing grants available, and seeing if Lacombe could fit into any of those. We have realized that the data from the affordable housing report in 2019 is out of date in a way that is not super useful anymore because we have had the pandemic since then, which changes numbers, and also a cost of living crisis. So we are really feeling the need for new data, but realizing that the old one was too old is part of our job. And then we did a brainstorming session in December for what would we like to do as steering committee going forward. So that brings us to what we're working on in 2026. So we are meeting every 2 months now because we felt like the 3-month frequency was, we were losing momentum on projects. So we've changed that to every 2 months. We are looking at updating our housing data. We are figuring out what to focus on next and thinking about budgeting. So for updating the housing data, the Government of Canada is running a census this year. And a lot of our previous data was based on not the last census, but 2 censuses ago. A lot of our information comes from Stats Canada. So instead of commissioning a comprehensive report at this point, we didn't think it would be wise to do that right before a new census. So we would rather wait to have like a really big official study done after we have that new data. So we thought about what are some ways that we can still get useful numbers for applying for grants and that sort of thing, and informing our strategy going forward, but without having to commission a big report. So we investigated various options for help. We reached out to various universities to see if there were students who might want to do a research project. We contemplated talking to Blackfalds City Council, who is also working on a similar sort of data gathering project. But after some looking over the existing data, I realized I can probably go in and update it with new StatsCan information. So I have volunteered my time to update that report just with the numbers, the new numbers. So I will be doing that with the help from FCSS, the Lacombe Foundation, and the Broom Tree, who can offer me more personal perspectives, where I will be collecting data from StatsCan. Yes, and then we will take this updated data and it can be used to apply for grants, as I've mentioned, share with the community, and to know where we should recommend changes in policy or new project ideas, that sort of thing, because it really feels like that's the foundation. We don't know what to do until we know what is already existing there. So we also, in our brainstorming session in December, we were trying to figure out what do we focus on next, and came up with a document and a list. So I've mentioned the data already. In the near future, we would also like to create a community hub for housing information so that people know where to go get help, where they possibly even what rentals are available in town, that sort of thing, because currently it's kind of scattered and there's also opportunities for renting scams and that kind of thing. So this would help prevent that. So that's one idea we have. And another idea is promoting non-traditional housing formats and choices. So a lot of people have mentioned ideas of multi-generational housing. So perhaps working with Berman and older people and creating rental rooms where younger people can help older people around the house, and then they also have housing. Also buying with friends versus what would be involved in that versus buying with family, and housing co-ops. So just ways to utilize already existing housing, but in ways where we're using that housing well, instead of perhaps having, 2 people in a 5-bedroom house. There are ways to be creative and just getting people thinking about how can we approach housing differently. In the longer term, we would like to review zoning to see how that is affecting housing in Lacombe. And there's interest in partnering with developers to incentivize affordable housing, and also working with other municipalities around housing partnerships. So those are some of our ideas, and we're not fully sure how long it will take us to get to each of these points, but that's what's coming up. So for money, our current working budget is $0. All of the money that was attributed to the Affordable Housing Steering Committee was then given to the Broomtree for their project. So our current working budget is $0, which is not a great place to do stuff from. So we are investigating various grants. We currently do not have any plans to make a request to council for funding, because we are still in the process of figuring out what exactly we are focusing on for the next while. So once we have more of a solid direction in a project, then we may bring some ideas to council. Yes, so that's an overview of what we've been up to. I really, really love this job. It's not a job, it's my volunteer work. And it's always the highlight of my month, seeing what's going on in town and how people are working towards housing people in ways that are affordable and attainable. I love it because it is the intersection of, like, we're a large enough group that we can start getting things done, but we're still small enough that we can listen to what's going down on the ground. Yeah, so that's our our committee. Are there any questions?
I do have a few questions and comments. There might be some others as well. So first of all, thank you very much to the volunteers that sit on that committee. I know that it sometimes flies under the radar a little bit, and maybe we're not, talking about it all the time. But this is something that does continue to come up, is affordability and affordability in housing, or attainability. I like that term as well. Is definitely something that a lot of people are talking about. So I did do a little bit of a deep dive into this. Obviously, we recently went through an election, and then because I knew that this presentation was coming up. So I just want to make a few points and then I'll circle back. So, with regards to, a housing needs assessment, you essentially have referenced that without maybe using the actual word, but that was done last in 2013, 2014, so very outdated. The Lacombe Foundation somewhat recently completed a seniors housing feasibility study that was conducted in 2018, 2019. So again, rather old. The affordable housing strategy that you did mention itself was completed in 2019. So again, quite outdated. The city completed a social needs assessment in 2024 that refreshed the social and demographic data, but only highlighted housing demand, supply, and affordability as important for further exploration. The MDP Municipal Development Plan 2017, that can't be right. So we're about halfway through a 20-year plan. Yes, actually, that is 2017. Contains forecasted growth of population and housing trends. However, 10 years in, we can see that there is a misalignment. It's not extreme, but there is a misalignment. So that begs the question as to why. Downtown area redevelopment plan is related to this as well. That was originally done in 2013 with the completion of it being 2032. So again, halfway through, there is parts of that reflect on housing, but it's not a major part. Land use bylaw went through a major rewrite 2017, I believe, with much of the purpose of that to realign things like density and a lot more flexibility, ideally for things like secondary suites or just density on development. The Municipal Sustainability Plan 2014, Imagine Lacombe Vision 2040, so desired outcomes for 2040, only had where we live and work, page 28. So a single page, not overly helpful. So what are the next steps? It does seem to me that I do appreciate what you've identified as next steps, and I'd largely agree with that. However, I worry that we are not setting you up for success. And so a new housing needs assessment is due, but I don't think that that's appropriate to be placing that responsibility on a steering committee. I think that that's something that would need to be led by council, identified as a priority by council and funded by council, and then that would give you something to work with. Absolutely 100% agree with your comment about StatsCan, just about to do their census, so that would provide updated information. But a housing and needs assessment is a data-driven report identifying current gaps, demographic trends, and future housing demands within a community. When we did it last, it would look very different probably than it looks now. It would also probably contemplate different things than it would have in the past as well. So I think that's a really important document that we essentially don't have because it's so out of date, it's useless. And then coming out of that HNA, we would have a housing action plan, the implementation strategy that uses the HNA data to provide specific actionable policies, initiatives, and targets for developing various types of housing. Because how do we know what we need if we haven't asked the questions? How do we ask the questions? So this is such an important topic that I wanted to really bring that home to this council as well as the community, that if we're going to talk about affordability and affordable housing in this community, then we need to consider doing it correctly. And we need to support the committee that has been struck in doing that work and not expecting you to do all that heavy lifting on your own. So I guess those are my individual personal comments. I would invite anybody else if they have questions. I do believe that I have, Councillor Contenti online wishes to weigh into this. Go ahead, Councillor Contenti.
Thank you, Mayor. Appreciate that. Thank you for your presentation. Very well done. And yes, you do have council support for sure. And I probably should have asked this question before, but affordable housing is a term that's used on every level of government, and it's sometimes very confusing on what it actually means. Just wondering if you have any numbers, details on like what's affordable rent in the city of Lacombe? What's an affordable home that someone starting out could purchase? Is that the kind of things we talk about when we're talking about affordable housing? Like, I know we need more of it, but what does it actually mean? And what's affordable? Is $500 a month, 10, 1,000, 2,000, I really struggle with that. So I'm just wondering if you can help me understand that a little bit more.
Okay, cool. I'm still on. Yeah, so generally, the CMHC defines affordable housing as 30% of somebody's income should go towards housing. So that's the goal that we're always aiming for. I don't currently know what people in Lacombe are spending relative to their income because, again, our numbers are out of date. But I do know that for measures of housing affordability in larger cities like Edmonton and Calgary, home buyers are often spending about 50% of their income on housing, and that's much higher than what we would like to see. It is also different for renting, but I would say the vast majority of rentals in Lacombe are often not within that 30% range for our people who are on the lower income spectrum. So it's very hard to find housing that is only 30% of your income if you are lower income. And many of those people end up going to the Broomtree or the Bethany group, who have very, very long waiting lists.
Yeah, thank you for that. Yeah, it's so hard to try and figure out what it actually means, and like rental accommodations are going to be market driven. If there's more availability rentals, then more competition, rents will go down. So many factors that fall in or come into play on that kind of thing, that it's going to be hard. But I think the new stats that's going to come out of the StatsCan thing will help a lot too. But 30% is it's a hard achievable goal right now for sure. I do get that. So thank you for that answer.
Yes.
Appreciate it.
I will mention that AISH currently gives people around $1,900 to $2,000 per month for income, and 30% of that is $600, and that is not a rental that you're able to find in Lacombe. So.
Any further questions for our presenters? Does not appear to be so. So thank you
Okay.
very much for your presentation today. I appreciate the time that you took to walk us through that presentation and answer questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. If you could just turn off the microphone there as well, please. Thank you. So we don't normally see a gallery that's quite this full, and of course it's because we have a public hearing. And just so that the gallery is aware, the public hearing, yes, was scheduled for 6 o'clock, but it's dependent as to where we are in the agenda. So once an item that we're on is completed, which it just was, then that's when we will now move into a public hearing. Just making sure I've got the right one in order. So the removal of the municipal reserve designation is what I have first on my list. So I do declare the statutory public hearing for the removal of the municipal reserve designation open, and that this hearing is held pursuant to section 7(8), 216.4, 606, 640, 675, and 692 of the MGA 2000 as amended, and requests that the legislative coordinator confirm the purpose of this public hearing, that the statutory public hearing notice was advertised as required on the city's by the city's advertising bylaw, and that any written submissions received and not included in the public hearing agenda package are read into the record.
Thank you, Mayor Hibbs and Council. The purpose of this public hearing is to provide an opportunity for the general public to offer input on the proposed removal of a municipal reserve MR designation, which was first included in the March 9th, 2026 Council consent agenda. The proposal seeks to remove the MR designation from a portion of Lot 24 MR, Block 3, Plan 1820543. If approved, the portion of land fronting on the west side of Highway Street and north of Dickens Lane will have its municipal reserve designation removed. In accordance with the city's advertising bylaw 482 and section 606 of the Municipal Government Act regarding advertising requirements, a public hearing notice was published in the Lacombe Express on Thursday, March 19th and Thursday, March 26, 2026, and on the city website as indicated in the agenda package. Mayor Hibbs and Council, 11 written submissions were received and included in the public hearing agenda package, and the city received 4 registrations from members of the public to speak. Thank you.
So all persons giving oral presentations are to clearly state their name, and presentations are to be brief and to the point. The order of the statutory public hearing presentation will be the development officer or designate, those in favor, those opposed, and then any person deemed to be affected who wishes to be heard. So I will call each of those up at the appropriate time. I do, just for clarification, want to point out that technically there are two separate public hearings, but I realize that they are very intertwined and it may be very difficult for you to speak only to one matter and not both. But just so that you're aware of that, and that's why we're essentially only talking about the one aspect to begin with, which is the removal of the municipal reserve designation, which is different than rezoning it from green space to commercial or some other zoning. So as is already in place, I have the development officer or designate at the presenters table. So I would invite them to take the microphone and do your presentation, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm Albert Klubman. I'm a planning consultant that's been retained by administration to coordinate this file. So I will be doing the presentations this evening. I've also prepared the request for decision that's in council's agenda package. So yes, we'll do the MR presentation first. We'll conclude that public hearing, understand, and then I'll be back to present on the rezoning. So we're here tonight because the previous council gave direction to investigate the removal of municipal reserve from the subject lands. So it was direction from the past council, and we're giving effect to that. And so but the deliberation, of course, is entirely a matter for this current council, and so we'll progress on that basis. Of course, it's removal of MR designation from a portion of land on the west side of the Highway 2A service road, sometimes called Highway Street, depending on the map that you look at, and it's the area north of Dickens Lane. And I'm going to give this a try. It worked, thank you. It doesn't always, but. So a quick summary, it's to remove municipal reserve designation from a portion of lot 24 MR standing for municipal reserve, block 3, plan 1820543. You'll note the MR there. MR is part of the legal description to the land. It's registered on title, and which is why we're having this public hearing to remove or to discuss removing the MR. Size of the area, there's about 120 meters of frontage along the service road. The estimated area is about 4,300 meters squared, or roughly an acre. The background. Subject land is a portion of the MR area on the west side of Highway 2A service road. The area is public open space. It's at the eastern edge of English Estates. It includes a Fortis Alberta power line easement. So there are a number of poles and an overhead line, and that it does transition to an underground line. This area forms a buffer between commercial and residential uses. Of course, we have low density residential to the west. And then along the service road, we have a number of commercial uses. We have the funeral chapel. We have retail, flooring store. There's healthcare in that area, and at the north end there is a small plaza that includes a restaurant, and there is a cabinet making shop. It's an interesting mix, relatively low impact, I would say, as far as commercial goes. The issues. The MR area is a green space that's never been formally improved. It's really just an open green space with trees to maintain. There is pedestrian access through the area, but there's not an improved trail. Over the years, the affected area has been used for parking by patrons of local businesses. The existing poplar trees are mature, with many of them dying and or needing extensive maintenance or removal. And some removal and maintenance work was done in the last year on this piece of land. The proposed solution is to remove the MR designation, rezone, subdivide, and create a commercial lot for sale. The proposed layout would retain a 15-meter wide buffer strip to separate the site from residential and maintain a pedestrian corridor. And so you can roughly see the subject site in the blue color at the south end of the map, bottom of the map. And that is conceptual in nature. If council decides to move ahead with this, the actual dimensions would be confirmed by a land surveyor as part of the subdivision process. Municipal Government Act. The MR is land conveyed to the municipality for park, public recreation, and school purposes when land is subdivided. Obviously, this is not a suitable school site, so school potential doesn't exist here. As I said earlier, it's designated as MR on title. Removal of MR requires a decision of council following a public hearing, and then formal direction is given to the land registrar based on council's direction. Some municipalities do it by bylaw, but the city of Lacomb's practice is to do it by resolution. The MGA is silent on that. Proceeds from the sale must be accounted for separately. This money can only be used to acquire land or for MR or improve MR areas for park and public recreation purposes. So any proceeds have to be used for park purposes. We've had a number of comments received, as your legislative services coordinator has indicated, and those comments are included in your agenda package. We've been able to review those comments and come up with, I would describe it as a number of themes. I'm not going to presume to address everyone's comment this evening. You may hear comments that focus on other things, but I will attempt to address them from an administrative perspective. There were questions. There was a question about the heritage value related to the Lacombe Nursery historically. Family and children use of park space was important to people. The pedestrian connection is important. There were comments that the trees provide a visual and sound barrier from Highway 2A and the railway to the east. There was concern about loss of green space and habitat. There was a comment that we don't need more commercial lands in the city of Lacombe. And there was a comment on the effect on property values. And I'll just quickly address those from our administrative perspective. The area is not subject to any kind of formal heritage designation. The trees are the result of natural regeneration, not having been planted. So it's our suspicion that this area was not actually part of the active nursery historically. Maybe the lands were part of the nursery, but this is not a plantation forest of any kind. About 70% of the green space will remain intact. So we're not talking about the entirety of the MR area. A 15-meter wide tree buffer will remain, allowing continued pedestrian use. Trees provide an important visual barrier, but have little effect on highway and railway noise. That seems to be the engineering consensus out there. I'm not going out on any limb there. It's not a significant natural area, but habitat will remain for urban wildlife. I'm not surprised that you see deer and other animals in that area. The city continues to grow. This parcel would be a very small addition to the commercial land inventory. And the impact on property values in this case is unknown. We have no empirical data to refute or deny. Next steps, if this proceeds, council would then adopt a resolution to remove the MR designation, and of course zoning and subdivision would be part of the process. And I'm not going to go into any more detail on that because I'll talk about that in the next presentation. So, Your Worship, I will turn it back to you. Oh, I suppose, do you have questions for me? Yeah.
Does not appear to be so. So the next category that I would call up would be those in favor. So anybody that wishes to speak in favor of this item. Do not see any coming forward. The next category then would be those opposed. I do understand that we have 4 registration for speaking. I assume that they're in this category. I would invite those 4 to come forward and take their opportunity to speak.
Thank you, Mayor Hibbs. The residents that I do have registered to speak right now currently are Marilyn and Jim Maloney, Alex Van Geest, Mark Glasgow, and Doug Shirley.
So one group at a time, please, but we'll start with those that are registered, and then I will open it up to anybody else that wishes to, would likely open that up to anybody else. So if you would please state your name.
So, my name is Marilyn Maloney.
Jim Maloney.
Very well.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. We want to thank you for the opportunity to speak regarding the proposal to rezone the municipal reserve area in question. We understand that this topic was originally brought to Council's attention in March of last year when the arborist recommended that the trees in the area be removed. An independent planner was hired to investigate, make recommendations, and report. We would like this council to consider the following points before voting tonight.
We would ask that City Council to uphold what was written in the Central Alberta Online article in July of 25 that reported the city acknowledges the community's appreciation for green spaces and says that it remains committed to preserving and enhancing Lacombe's urban forest. The proposed abolishment of green space clearly contradicts this reported commitment.
The City of Lacombe background information claims that, quote, the area is underutilized as recreational park space, end of quote. Shouldn't council consider improving the green space instead of abolishing it? This is definitely a first impression area for travelers entering Lacombe. Our city has always taken pride in our historical downtown and is frequently recognized as being one of Alberta's charming and desirable places to live. Our walking paths and green spaces are cited as reasons to live in Lacombe. We're asking this council to keep this in mind when voting tonight. The planner report states that the area does not appear to be based on any particular natural heritage value. I'm not sure exactly what that means, but as far as we know, it was part of Lacombe Nursery. We know people who are now our age who said they have planted the trees there. And I understand that there's also reforestation that happens naturally. English Estates was developed in that area with strict architectural controls meant to preserve and honor the heritage value of that area. We have lived on Petticoat Lane for over 22 years and, like our neighbors, purchased the property because of the green space in question. If council decides to remove the green space, which borders our property, we'll probably consider relocating.
Last week, English Estates residents met to discuss the proposal that we were being asked to vote on. We believe that the green space in question should be improved rather than abolished. Some ideas for improving this area brought up at the meeting were, how about make the area into a small rest stop with picnic benches and so on? Install a large sign, as many communities, for example, in Banff, Red Deer, Sylvan Lake, would have a large sign saying Lacombe as people enter from the north and first see Lacombe. Also improve the space by planting memorial trees or installing memorial benches. The space will definitely need replanting of trees or shrubs to replace trees behind or being removed. New vegetation is absolutely necessary to replace the original noise and visual buffer between the highway and the adjoining neighborhood. I can add to that at our own house, we can hear a lot of the stuff that we're talking about here because we live like 50 yards away. There is currently over 200,000 in the municipal reserve fund, money that is earmarked to improve green spaces in Lacombe. Let's keep our city beautiful by remaining committed to preserving existing green space.
And to follow up, when the leaves are on the trees, as a resident nearby, it's definitely different sounding than when it's fall and winter and there are no leaves on that trees. I can attest to that. Definitely. Currently, there are numerous commercial sites, spaces in Lacombe available for sale or lease. For example, the old Chamber of Commerce site, the space beside McDonald's, the old Shoppers Drug Mart site, numerous spaces over at Midway Center, and all, of course, all the vacant area west of Pentagon that has yet to be developed, and numerous industrial properties on the west side, east side of Highway 2A. The proposed rezoning would yield about a little over 1 acre. Is that really necessary and a prudent course of action for this council to take?
So in conclusion, we would ask council to vote against rezoning the municipal reserve green space tonight. Instead, we would ask that council focus on improving the area for the betterment of our city and all its residents and visitors. Thank you very much.
Do we ask for questions now or at the end of?
If you're sitting there and there are any questions, we'll take them now, but otherwise we'll excuse you. Are there any questions? None online. Does not appear that you have any questions. Thank you for your presentation. And the next of the registered speakers, please. Welcome. So again, please clearly state your name.
Certainly. Madam Mayor and councillors, my name is Douglas Shirley. We live on, my wife and I live on Petticoat Lane. We come from a little bit different perspective. Definitely against this removal of this property from a green space. Definitely against it. But the difference that I may share with you tonight is we moved here 1st of August and bought from folks that had lived there from day one. As we come into Lacombe to look at our property that was interesting to us that we now have, first thing was that area, that green space. The trees are there. They hadn't leafed out yet, but it's like, wow, this is nice. We're not going in behind a whole group of businesses. There's businesses out, but not right there. So from a personal perspective for us, that was very important. We probably would not have bought if that was bare and there was whatever, fast food businesses or something right there. From a different perspective, we're here very much to support those people that live right on that. Because we mentioned we're on Pickwick. I think I'd mentioned Petticoat earlier, but for the folks that are on Petticoat, we support them because I truly believe their property values are going to suffer. A few other things. It was mentioned earlier about the architectural controls for English estates. There's the document right from the early 90s. It's all there. And some of those statements are in my letters. If you had a chance to read that or in our letter, living in a subdivision that has the rustic qualities of an acreage, that's what that's all about, that green space. Living in a subdivision where there's abundance of trees. Rare indeed is the opportunity to enjoy a country setting with privacy. And English Estates is a community for people who love the outdoors, all in that architectural controls document when that subdivision went through. And I think we need to stay with that. A few other quick points. Before we brought the property, we went to City Hall. I asked, are there any changes for that subdivision going on? For example, tearing up the streets, redoing the sewers, electrical lines, all those things that do have to be done at some time, somewhere. Anything at all. And the person said, looked it up on the computer, nothing at all. And yet people are telling us this was brought up back before we purchased that. But they didn't seem to know that here at City Hall. And maybe that's a communication thing that concerns me. Other things that have been addressed, increase in traffic volume, reducing property values. Another statement in that architectural controls was, I found this very interesting. Entrances are a focal point in the design of any house. Same idea applies to the subdivision, right? The appearance, the entrance. Just a few quick things. Do we address the trees issue now, or would that be in another portion?
If you want to speak to it now and then not speak to it
Okay.
again later, if you're wanting to save yourself a trip, I think we can be a little bit more lenient just because they're
it's
so
just
intertwined.
A
Yeah.
few things. I realize the danger of old trees falling down, causing issues with power lines and various things. And if the arborist has looked at that. But there's lots of young trees and undergrowth there. And if you make that decision to take down those trees, I sure hope it's not track hoes walking in there or cats just mauling everything. Don't think there's a need for that. We can protect that undergrowth. And we saw it in Grand Prairie when it happened there in parks with the pine beetles and that. They got people to come in with the horses. They felled those trees, skidded them out, and within 2 years, it was all rejuvenating. It's wonderful. I think there's a better way to handle that if you have to do it. Yes, definitely. I agree with Jim and Marilyn. What can we do to beautify and maintain this gem? It is a gem. We must maintain it. In summary, one statement. Please don't take offense to this. I hope I'm wrong. I hope I'm dead wrong on this. But quote a line from The Sounds of Silence by Simon and Garfunkel. People are hearing without listening. I hope you're listening to us tonight. Thank you.
Are there any questions? Does not appear to be so. Next registered presenter, please.
Hello, Council. My name is Mark Glasgow. I live on Petticoat Lane. I'm here because of all of the English Estate residents, and the reason I'm speaking here tonight is because I'm opposed to the rezoning of the green space district behind Petticoat Lane into Highway Commercial District. I understand the trees need to come down, like they're hazardous, like they are taking out houses and whatnot, but there's no reason for it to become commercial. There are many other options that can be done with this area, such as replanting trees, making a walking path, or putting park benches, just like a lot of the other people have said. As a family man, I have 2 very young boys, and I take them back there very regularly. Take my dog back there. It's also a wildlife, like they say it doesn't affect the wildlife, but it will. Like there's tons of birds back there, and deer come through there regularly. If you make this area commercial, that will go away. There are many other areas in Lacombe that are viable options to expand commercially. This area behind English Estates is not one of them. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak.
Hello,
And again-
everyone.
And again, if you could please state your name.
Yeah. My name is Alex Van Geest. I'm the owner of Wilson's Funeral Chapel. So I have a little bit of a different perspective on this whole issue, but yeah, thank you for listening to me, all you counselors and Mayor Hibbs. I do appreciate the time you guys spend on council. I find it very admirable. I want to express my strong opposition to the proposed rezoning of the municipal reserve to commercial land. Wilson's was first made aware of the city's intentions in the summer of 2025 when asked for its inputs on this. That was before the March meeting. At that time, we clearly expressed our opposition, and I'm saddened that this process still continued for as far as it has. In that meeting too, I expressed my opposition, and I asked those who were in attendance in that meeting, have you talked to the residents of English Estates? Because I darn well know that they're not going to be happy about it. And they said no. And then it was, to my understanding later, that they still didn't actually approach anybody from English Estates to let them know that that this was happening. So I think that was a failure in communication and in trying to find research into how this issue is going to impact the community. I was shocked to read in the past council that the past council passed this first read back in March 2025. I stated that already. And then it is also concerning that shortly after, in March, when that council, that past council, put that through, in July of 2025, the town announced that they wanted to preserve green space and enhance the urban forest within Lacombe. So how can they contradict themselves by saying, yes, we want to enhance green space and preserve urban areas within Lacombe, but then also turn around and in some ways kind of, it felt secretive, pass a motion to remove this municipal reserve. And why I say it felt secretive is even myself, I had to go and dig through old council meetings, the minutes, and then in it, this whole proposal was brought up through land titles. And there was never a common description of where this location actually was. So I think that's kind of, it seemed really deceiving to myself. I actually had to take that land title, ask a friend who had the ability to research land titles and be like, hey, where is this in Lacombe? And he has a paid subscription to do that. So he looked it up and let me know, hey, Alex, that's actually just south of the funeral home. So it felt quite deceiving that way to myself. In regards to the green space, it currently offers a peaceful setting, especially meaningful to families that we serve. It was very unique that I'm not only commercial, but I have the funeral home. The families I serve are bereaved, recently lost a loved one. When they come to my office, it's not in a large commercial setting. It's one of the biggest reasons why I wanted to purchase this funeral home. The ability to have families be present in green space and to grieve that way instead of in an industrial park or a large commercial area. So I think by turning this into another commercial space could actually hurt the bereaved families that we serve. My biggest fear is if this continues forward, what is going to go there? I have no control on what's going to be placed in that spot. And what happens if it's an unsavory business or something that that I don't necessarily want? For an example, a fast food restaurant. Well, now I'm going to have people till at 2 o'clock in the morning parked in my parking lot, throwing garbage out their window. So every morning I'm going to have to go and clean up garbage. When I'm serving families, they're going to be looking outside, watching a drive-through as people are getting their food. And then let alone the increase in traffic in regards to potential crime, potential break-ins into my building. I've already reported a number of times that that we've been attempted to be broken into. This is just going to increase it, not only for me, but for the residents behind in English Estates. I feel particularly sad for the residents of English Estates. I not only purchased Wilson's Funeral Chapel because of its beauty beside the green space, but if I was going to choose a place to live and there is a large green space behind, I think there's a lot of value to that. And I would want that house. And now that they've purchased it, they've owned it, and I own Wilson's Funeral Chapel. That municipal reserve was supposed to stay a municipal reserve. So this feels like a bait and switch. So I put my extra investment in. These residents put extra investment into their properties, and now all of a sudden that's going to be taken away. Who wants to live in a construction zone? Who wants to live behind some type of business and watching their back doors? Other practical concerns are there's already a lack of parking. I have plenty of parking. I will admit that we allowed people to park in overflow on that spot in the past. I started working for Wilson's in 2014, took over in 2018. And with the practices of the past owner, they allowed overflow parking to go into that green space. We also serve a large agricultural community. They have no qualms in parking in a grass field. So I had no issue with allowing people to park there because I didn't know that it was an issue. I didn't stop people from parking there because I'd never been told I wasn't allowed to. Through this whole process, I was told to stop, and which we promptly have. We do have ample parking, but what's going to happen when we put another business there? there's not going to be enough parking on the road. It's going to increase traffic. It's already pretty congested going out of Dickens Lane, out of 63rd Ave onto Highway 2A, especially during the busy times in the morning and at about 5 o'clock. So has there been any studies to see if this is going to impact it even more? What's the cost of, now, if there are studies, what's the cost of having to put up traffic lights? So is that going to offset what you're going to gain by selling this piece of property, having to put up traffic lights? The municipal reserve land is intended for public use and enjoyment. Why can't we come up with a better solution? Why don't we talk to the local business owners in the area, myself, and the other ones? I can't speak on their behalf, but I'm sure they would love to have an investment and put in some park benches, put in a picnic table, allow it a good space for families to come and visit. It would be a great place for people to stop, those who are traveling, their first impression of Lacombe, that they can stop into a nice green space and take a break. And in regards to, so that would offset some of the improvement costs if we talk to local businesses. In regards to myself specifically, I know I was in chat with a couple of the past members of council and public works people about potentially putting up a tree program within not only just Lacombe, but Lacombe County. There's a lot of people that want to buy memorial trees. So could we designate some of that towards replanting not only this spot, but more of Lacombe? So there's a great idea that we could maybe start tackling together. Yeah, and I know it's been said a few times, but there is a surplus of commercial lots within Lacombe. Why are we taking away from their potential sales? Just to increase this area and then hurt the residents of English Estates. This will definitely negatively impact my property value, and I know it will impact the property values of those who live in English Estates. So what is your actions towards that? How are we going to compensate those who are going to be affected by this? So in conclusion, I strongly urge the council to reconsider this proposal. This is a development issue. It is not suitable for the fit for this area. This development is not a suitable fit for this area and result in loss of valuable environmental, community, and emotional benefits. One thing I want to do too, I think it's valuable to note, I don't know how many times it happens when there's a public hearing and there's this many people that show up to oppose this. So maybe if everyone who's here on this issue and want to oppose it, just maybe even just stand up instead of having to speak. Stand up and maybe raise your hand too.
Sir, that's not necessary, actually. Thank you. If
Yeah.
you could sit down. Just please remember that we are in chambers and that we're going to act with decorum at all times. Everybody here has the opportunity to come and speak as you have. I don't need theatrics. It's much better if it's words that come from the heart, if you wish to relay something to council. So thank you. Do you have
No.
anything further to add to?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Are there any questions for this presenter? Does not appear to be so. Oh, sorry, Councillor Proud.
I don't have a question specifically for yourself, but just for the presenters as a whole. Few weeks back, we did have like an unofficial coffee with council and discussion with yourself, Marilyn, in regards to the buffer and the question of whether or not a buffer of 10 meters, 15 meters, 20 meters would be something that you would be in favor of. Now, I know when we spoke about that, that was something that you were somewhat in favor of, but at this point I'm seeing that that's not, like, you're not wanting that at all at this point. So yeah, I just wanted to touch base on that one.
Thank you. Obviously, if this rezoning happens, that buffer is like critical, and that would be our second best. We just feel that it's such a small piece of land, and that's a first. I think it's very important to preserve Lacombe's charm and its reputation as this is a good place to live. These people, the mayor, the council, the residents, they love the outdoors. They treasure their walking paths, their green spaces, and they will respect them and honor them as council, or not council, but the newspaper reported, saying that our city is committed to this. So we're just asking for I know it was a different council, but perhaps all of the residents still feel the same, that green space is very important to the appeal of living in Lacombe. And we feel that we could come up with some very good options of improving that space instead of abolishing it. Thank you.
Thank you. I just wanted to touch base on that point.
Thanks.
So we have heard from the 4 registered, but that doesn't mean that other people are not able to speak. So I would invite anyone else that wishes to speak as opposed to come to the presenters table. Yes, go ahead, please. So again, please state your name if you're coming to the presenter table to speak to this issue.
You bet.
My name is Donna McDonald. I live in 24 Petticoat Lane. I just want to put some of my thoughts on the table. I'm really glad that the funeral home came up and talked, because that was one of my concerns too, is how do you maintain a presentable atmosphere for that sensitive of a business? But I back right onto there. And I can tell you that there are so many people that actually walk back there. I have dogs. And so I'll tell you what, I'm aware every time somebody walks by, and it's often. And also back when we moved there, I've been there a long time. I think came in 94 or something like that. And I will say that when we came, there was the whole soccer diet, the soccer fields and everything were off where now the co-op is. So when we came, all of that was green space. And then there were I think about 4 baseball diamonds. And then they, they did some rezoning. And so sort of since that time, all of those areas went. Then the whole along now where the funeral home and all those businesses have also gone. But also, I remember when this was happening and they had asked for some input, some of these changes were happening. And I was told at that time, because I lived back on there, that little section behind where I live, 24 Petticoat Lane, was a natural park. The guy on the phone gave me a name of that natural park.
Kew Gardens.
Is that what it's called? Kew Gardens. So when I phoned back, some years later, then they told me that wasn't a park, but it does have, he gave me a name. So it's called Kew Gardens. And so I had assumed actually, because it was always lightly maintained back there, that in fact it was a natural sort of garden, a natural park. And so I don't know what the idea is for that back in there too, but I think that when you drive through Lacombe, there is a quaintness about it. The whole 2A through Lacombe actually has got a sort of quaintness, and they even tried it where they put the railroad tracks in, they tried to put those vines that don't grow, but they put them all along that fence there. They have really tried to maintain that. I don't know why they don't grow, but they tried. And so to see them now take away that little tiny bit that really is not going to make much of a difference to this city, but will make quite a difference to our little English estates and to the actual view of the city when you first come in. So I just wanted to say that's my part.
Thank you. Do we have anyone else that wishes to speak in opposition? Yes.
Oh.
The big boy chair.
The microphone does move, so you can actually take the whole unit closer to you so it's a bit more, and then just make sure it's turned back on again. Just the big button, the big bar button at the front, just to turn that on so that it glows red. There you go.
Thank you. Thank you for allowing some of us to speak to this. And I'm not used to speaking in public in such a formal setting. But anyway, I would ditto what everybody else has said. And I'm sure a lot of the folks here do live in English estates. And we have been here since the summer of 2017. So we've seen the area pretty much staying the same of quietness, no crime that we know of anyway. And our backyard is next to the co-op wall, the co-op grocery store. So I would say, why in the world would you want to disturb that area? And if you make so-called improvements to it, picnic benches and signs and blah, 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 you're going to invite more people to wherever they're from in Lacombe for dog walking and whatever else other people like to do for walks. And that'll create more public use of it, of that area. We came here to the meeting initially thinking it was the open area beside the church at the north end, but, and we don't have a computer, so we only rely on the Globe for our information. But we had one of these dropped off in our mailbox about 3 days ago. And so that's why we're here tonight. And our opposition, of course, is evident. And so I won't repeat anything, but, and I know Murray feels the same. Did you have anything else?
Well, I don't have anything new to add to it, but I'd just like to point out that to council that there are lots of areas, and particularly west of Pentagon, that the city or somebody spent millions of dollars to upgrade that floodplain. I can remember as a kid that was a floodplain, and it seems like people are scared to go into there. But the city has spent millions of dollars, I believe it's the city, to try to upgrade that and encourage people to come. And that would be a good place for the Lacombe City Council to encourage what business might go in there and into this little area. And I also believe that trees are a good sound barrier. Where we are, we hear the railroad and highway traffic, the swish, and in the winter time. But in the summertime, it seems like the leaves come out. We don't see the railroad tracks. We don't see the highway, and we don't hear the noise from those two particular areas. I know I don't wear my hearing aids outside an awful lot, but I think that the trees are a good barrier of sound. And the people in Petticoat Lane in the wintertime from the southeast wind, if you take those trees out, they'll notice a difference in their heating bill because those trees are, they're a good barrier. So I encourage the council to not to rezone this and leave it as a green space. And I think I haven't got anything else to say. There's everything that we written down is pretty well covered. So we never told her name, Murray and Carol Gordon.
I was just going to ask you that.
Yeah.
So thank you very much. No, I appreciate that.
We
Thank
live
you.
on Dickens Lane.
Yes,
So-
thank you.
Okay. I think we're done.
I will just say, last minute thought, thank you for the city of Lacombe for doing what you have done these all these years since we've been here to look after the, what do you call it, a service road along the co-op wall. And I know there's a lot of stuff to do yard wise and tree wise in Lacombe, but that's how you keep things beautiful. And that area is what attracted us to buy into English Estates because of the trees and not having to look out your front window and see somebody else's roof in another area. So so that was our best choice. Thank you.
Welcome. Very good.
Okay, off.
Sure. Thank you very much. So I'd say last call for anyone else that wishes to speak in opposition. Yes.
Good evening, Council. One thing that hasn't been brought up is when you think of English Estates, you think of an older neighborhood and maybe some people that are, well, there are a lot of seniors in that area, but more and more, we're getting a lot of younger people. Sorry?
Yeah, we are.
Yeah.
I see you back there in my house.
Yeah, and I think it's a nice thing to keep the community well-treated, and we have nice playgrounds. It's just a really nice community. And it's going to be a nice community for a long time.
Could I just ask you to state your name, please?
Oh, sorry, Deborah McAleese.
Thank you. Thank you for your presentation. Oh, I have one more hand up.
Yes, good evening, Council. My name is Lita Fernandez. I live on Pickwick Lane. I moved in about 4 years ago, and I've not been in the back area there, but I do understand that those trees are getting older. They need to be replaced or taken down. But if you want to beautify the community, I was thinking that instead to replace the trees with some smaller growing trees that would maybe incorporate with the funeral home, because they do need to have a nice place for the people to come to, and maybe put up some benches like they're saying, and maybe a circle of life or something for different denominations that could come in and sit around, because not everybody goes to the funeral or to the cemetery. There's people that maybe have their funeral there, but have nowhere else to go to get together. So maybe they could have a nice park area there that would incorporate with the funeral home, and then other people can go there just to walk with the kids and fix up the back part and clean it up so kids can go back there without getting hurt and the old trees and all the deadfall and everything. Maybe English State people can actually go there and help you do it. I mean, it's their park too. So that's everything. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't see any further hands. So I am going to move to the next category, which is any person deemed to be affected who wishes to be heard. Don't traditionally get anybody going in this one, but just putting it out there just to make it official. I do not have anyone. So then I would declare that the public hearing for the removal of the municipal reserve designation is closed at 7:03 p.m. And as was mentioned before, we do have 2 public hearings. So I, by law, now must declare the next open. So I declare the statutory hearing for bylaw 400.77 open, and that this hearing is held pursuant to section 7(8), 216.4, 606, 640, 675, and 692 of the MGA 2000 as amended, and request the legislative coordinator to confirm the purpose of this public hearing, that the statutory public hearing notice was advertised as required by the city's advertising bylaw, and that any written submissions received and not included in the public hearing agenda package are read into record.
Thank you, Mayor Hibbs and Council. The purpose of this public hearing is to provide an opportunity for the general public to offer input on the proposed amending bylaw 400.77, which received its first reading on March 9th, 2026. Bylaw 400.77 proposes to amend Land Use Bylaw 400. If approved, Bylaw 400.77 will amend Schedule A, Part 15.1 of the Land Use Bylaw 400 by rezoning part of Lot 24MR, Block 3, Plan 1820543 from Green Space District to Highway Commercial District C4. In accordance with the city's advertising bylaw 482 and section 606 of the Municipal Government Act regarding advertising requirements, a public hearing notice was published in the Lacombe Express on Thursday, March 19th and Thursday, March 26, 2026, and on the city website as indicated in the agenda package. Mayor Hibbs and council, we received those same 11 written submissions and included them in the public hearing agenda package, and the city received those 4 registrants from members of the public to speak. Thank you.
Although it may seem redundant, all persons giving oral presentations are to clearly state their name, and presentations are to be brief and to the point. And we will do them in the same order as was for the previous public hearing. Therefore, the development officer or designate is first up. I will open the floor again to further submissions, but first the development officer or designate, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. I will keep this as brief as possible. As has already been read out, this public hearing is to consider an amendment to the land use bylaw to change the land use district of the property we're talking about tonight. Good. Again, I don't think I need to belabor the point. We're dealing with the same piece of land. The description is the same. It's to change the land use district of this 1.07 acre area estimated. Again, this area forms a buffer between commercial and residential uses, and there's a FortisAlberta power line easement as part of this municipal reserve area. Again, the issues are the same. I won't repeat those. So the proposal is to remove the MR designation and rezone or change the land use district, technically, subdivide and create a commercial lot for sale to sell the affected area. It's about 4,300 meters squared out of a total area of about 14,000 meters squared, so about 30% of the site. And again, the proposed layout would retain a 15 meter wide buffer strip. So the key change to the land use bylaw, the technical change, is to change figure 15.1 of the bylaw. That figure is the land use district map of land use bylaw 400. And so the green space designation on that map would change to highway commercial or C4 for the affected portion of land. The remainder would remain as green space. This would be identical to the designation of the commercial lands to the north along Highway Street or the Highway 2A service road. So the land uses that are there actually all are uses permitted under the C4 designation. The C4 designation allows for a range of commercial uses subject to the regulations contained in the bylaw. And so we're going to distinguish for a moment here between uses and regulations. So the uses are the types of land use activities that are permitted, whether permitted or discretionary. We'll get into that in a moment. And then the regulations are things like minimum frontage, the setbacks, the maximum coverage, the parking that must be required, the maximum building height, and similar matters. And so we've got permitted and discretionary uses for the C4 district like any other. This is the list of permitted uses. This means that if the owner of a property in the C4 district were to come along and apply for a development permit for one of these uses, they would be entitled to a development permit effectively as of right, as long as they're going to comply with the regulations contained in the land use bylaw. So we've got Accessory uses, of course, but animal services, automotive sales and service, bus depot, cannabis retail, car wash, commercial recreation, fast food, I think is part of this. Yes, it is. Yeah. Hotel, liquor store, motel, parking facility, and yeah, the restaurant, of course, retail sales in general, service station. So we have a fairly long list of permitted uses. Now, we also have a list of discretionary uses. Now, if someone comes along and asks for a development permit for one of these, the development officer has discretion about whether or not to issue. And also, if a development permit is issued for discretionary use, then people affected by it may have the right to appeal to the Subdivision and Development Appeal Board if they have concerns about the proposal. So that's a key difference with discretionary. And the discretionary uses it's a broader list, and you would expect that most discretionary uses would have some kind of special condition attached to them if they're allowed to go forward. A drive-through is discretionary. Financial institution or equipment rentals, microbrewery, heavy equipment sales, personal services is discretionary. That would include things like hairstyling, veterinary clinic or hospital. Shipping container is discretionary. And so this gives you a sense of how the C4 district works, and if the bylaw, the amending bylaw, if approved, would provide for this list of both permitted and discretionary uses. Comments received, it's the same comments, so I won't belabor these points and go over them again, unless council has specific questions about them. And actually, I will make one point. When I say the area is not subject to, sorry, hold on a moment. It's not a significant natural area. What I meant by that was that there's nothing in the background studies or your municipal development plan that would indicate that this is an environmentally significant area. Yes, it's an open space that's never been developed, but it's really got the same status as any other neighborhood park. And of course, the next steps: removal of the MR designation, subdivision application and approval, third reading of bylaw 400.77. So the recommendation is to simply do second reading tonight. And as we dealt with another issue in the last number of months, bring this back for a third reading once a subdivision approval is in place, so we don't get ahead of ourselves in terms of the approvals. It doesn't seem reasonable to conclude an amendment to the land use bylaw if the subdivision isn't concluded in this case. And if that all happens, then the subdivision will be registered along with the removal of the municipal reserve designation for the subdivided portion only. The surveyors actually take care of that, or they're part of taking care of that process. And the recommended motions, that council approve the removal of the MR designation from the identified part of lot 24 MR Block 3 Plan 1820543 and direct administration to notify the registrar of land titles. There should be another one here. Yes. And that council gives second reading to bylaw 400.77 as presented. And I think that's it. Yes. Thank you, Your Worship. I'll turn it back to you.
Very good. Councillor Span, did you have a question?
Yeah, through Mayor Hibbs to Albert. If this was zoned commercial, based on the land use bylaw, how far back on the lot could the commercial building be put?
That's an excellent question, Your Worship. I believe the setback from the rear property line is 6 meters in this case, although I believe the bylaw requires 9 adjacent to residential. But technically, it would not be adjacent to residential, it'd be adjacent to the park. Director Hackett might be able to confirm that, but.
Director Hackett.
Thank you, Mayor Hibbs. Yes, it's 8 meters when adjacent to a residential district, or Mr. Flutman was correct, 6 meters for a minimum rear yard. Assuming it went to C4.
Okay, then I would, got to go by the book because we've got to make sure that we do these correct when we're dealing with statutory requirements. I would invite any of those in favor of this item to come forward. Seeing none. Anyone opposed that has not had a chance or feels they need to add something? Yeah, if you could take the presenter table again and reintroduce yourself, please. And turn the microphone on.
My name's Donna McDonald, 24 Petticoat Lane. I do just have one question, clarification. The park that we have, what is the name of that little park back there?
Q, K-E-W.
That's right. So the Q Park, will that be gone if this is gone? Like I was looking up there and it looked sort of like that part might be gone too, but it's not gone. That will be left alone.
So as was presented, a small portion, so about 30% of the overall MR area would become, if it was successful, would become a C4, so commercial district, but the vast majority of the park space will remain, so 70%. With
that park, so just sort of where
overall,
it
so
sits.
there would be a buffer strip that would be left in between the new commercial parcel and the existing residential to the west. So
Okay, so I just wanted to, when I looked at it this last time, and I just thought like, this gal had mentioned that the population in English Estates has very much changed from a older population to a younger population. And so just the other day, I was looking out and looked and there's getting to be quite a few kids there, and they walk down that waterway and go back in there. So kids do use that park way more than they used to when it was all us old people and our dogs. So, okay, thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
Good evening. Thank you for giving us English Estates residents an opportunity to speak. I would just like to say 20 years living on Pickwick Lane, neighbors to our new people here, Doug and Carmen. Lita Fernandez, who had a lovely suggestion about what could happen around the funeral parlor, like with a circle of life and a garden and something very pleasant. These are our newest residents. They're my newest neighbors. I'm getting to be one of the oldest residents on Pickwick Lane. And I think I can reiterate that everyone here, we're all on the same page, and we hope you haven't already made up your decision on this in voting before you heard everyone. What bothers me, and I'm not sure the gentleman, is it Albert? He showed the possibilities of the commercial, like what could go there. And my heart just started to beat rapidly, because is there not something in your bylaws that says cannabis, as an example, we have right by the Church of Latter-day Saints, we have a strip mall. It's brand new, right next to the cabinet making. It took them a while to fill all those commercial spaces. I see there's a daycare, which is great, right next to the cannabis shop or the liquor store, which is all there. For me to see those kinds of things as opportunities that could go there, there must be a bylaw or a law that says 2 cannabis stores within a stone's throw of each other shouldn't exist. And I'm talking personal experience when you have a son who's addicted. So I just think that the fact that we're talking about taking a green space and there's a possibility of another fast food or pizza joint, because a lot of the comments that I read about our town, which we came here for the same reasons everyone else did, beautiful retirement area. What are we full off the most here? Pizza and cannabis facilities, or whatever you call them. And so to see that as, these people could apply and no deregulation. And I don't know the ins and outs of how far 2 cannabis stores can be next to each other, but I am definitely opposed to any of this green space that we have. And it is a habitat. If you're ever there at night, I feed 6 deer every night with apples when they come looking, because we have that in our area and we have everyone with a dog. So I just didn't plan to say anything tonight, but that got my goat and it got my blood boiled. So I'm just adding that to say, leave it as a space that we can enhance, just like we have the beautiful birth for the children that are born. Here, we can also have something for the memorial, that you have a place to have a piece for all denominations, as Alita said, a circle of life, and make it a garden. It won't be Bouchard Gardens in Victoria, but it could be a beautiful garden, and leave Aurora Dental and the funeral parlor, those jiggers is all there. We don't need any more commercial space taking over green space. Thank you for your time.
Could I just get you to state your name, please? Sorry, excuse me, sorry. Beverly Haiti? Hagen, sorry, Hagen.
We go to the same church, dear.
Very, very good.
We do.
I appreciate that, but I just need you to state it properly for the record. So thank you. I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Yeah. So I do not, oh, sorry, do I see another?
Hi there, Ashley Brown. Just wanted to point out that you potentially, by changing to C4, are taking a green space and turning it into a gas station with all the potential environmental impacts that a gas station could have. Thanks.
Yes, please. Again, please state your name, just for the record. Again, this is a separate public hearing than the first one.
Certainly, thank you. Douglas Shirley, we're on Pickwick Lane. I look at every time we go into Red Deer, it's the first thing you see. All these modular homes lined up on both sides. I know some people need that, but I always find myself saying, when are we going to get to the real city? When are we going to see the residential instead of all these things lined up and, you know, look the same? So I'm concerned about some of those things that are on the list that I feel would be totally inappropriate to have in that space. Thank you.
Thank you. I have one at the back, please, that hasn't spoken. Come forward, sir. Yes. You haven't had a chance to speak yet.
Yeah, my name is Pete McAleese. I live in Coventry Lane. And I just want a little clarification. This is the kind of the end of the road here. If this resolution gets, let's say the MR is removed, and now somebody comes in here and says, I want to turn this into a car wash, gas station, number 7 along the 2 blocks of 2A that are in English, just beside English Estates. That's a done deal. There's no consideration of community input at that point in time, that this is the kind of the final decision. So whatever, if it says, yeah, permitted, head shop, cannabis shop, another liquor store, yep, another gas station, yeah, it's a done deal. Give us your check for 200 grand, that's yours. That's it? Am I correct? Is this it, the final say?
So there are 2 types of development, I guess. You have your permitted and discretionary. So depending on the zoning, you're going to have some that fit into one category and some that fit into other. So barring any unusual circumstances like significant variances or something like that, then assuming that the permitted use of that zoning matches, then yes, you would be able to. I would, just for further clarification, point out the fact that all of those are C4. So all of those uses, even though currently they're being used for one, does not mean that tomorrow they couldn't be sold, and now they could be any other use that's listed there. So just to keep that in mind, that's the case in any parcel across the whole community. That's in regards to residential, that's commercial, that would be the same. So does that make sense? And just for further clarification, this is a public hearing, which of course we're able to hear your concerns. This is your opportunity to speak to these, and that at the next point within this agenda, we will then have the actual readings of these changes. And so council will either support or not support those. And then that will further us down the process as was outlined by Mr. Flutman.
I guess I was just a little confused because I tried reading all those permitted uses when I knew this was going through, and I was trying to get it, interestingly enough, in the car wash, trying to read through this stuff. And I thought it said something about meeting the needs of the community in those. Am I dreaming that, or was that not written in there under those permitted uses and discretionary, non-discretionary uses? I thought I read something in there in accordance with community standards and the community involvement, what's good for the community. Am I just imagining that? It could be.
If I were to make a stab at it, and I might have our designate come back up to speak to this, but I think when you're setting zoning within a community, whether that's C4, C2, R1, which is residential, that you're picking what is discretionary and what is permitted under those zones for a reason. You're also locating them specifically for a reason. So for example, C4 would very traditionally be well suited to highway commercial, which is exactly what this is. And so that would fit things like gas stations or just generically, right?
Yeah, I
And
guess
so
it
that
was
the
just a
assumption would
confusion
be,
over the word community that
Okay.
I ran into, and I'm saying, well, the community would be the people of English Estates, not the community being the traffic community that we get on 2A.
true, but also just and I don't want to seem like I'm getting into an argument with you. I just want to help you
Yeah, no, I
understand as well as everybody else. It wouldn't be for the community as in English Estates. It would be for the good of the community, city of
As a whole.
Lacombe.
Exactly.
So that is also very important to remember that when we at some point set zones within this community, it was for the community benefit and not for any specific area.
Yes, no, I understand that.
Very well.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Okay. All right, I don't see any further speakers, so I will move to the next category. Any person deemed to be affected who wishes to be heard? I do not see that. So then I will declare the public hearing for the removal of municipal reserve designation closed at 7:26. So with the completion of those public hearings, as I was saying, that is the opportunity for the public to come to council and share their thoughts. As a rule, meetings of council do not involve the public directly. They're there to observe and not to participate, with the exception of public hearings, as you have just experienced. With the close of those, that now does close the opportunity for you to have that say. I very much appreciate that very many of you came out to either speak or to support those who did speak. So we will now move in our agenda to the next section, which is request for decision. Oh, thank you. And it is so that this item is actually next. So at this point, we will have a member of administration come up, do a presentation in regards to this item, and this will enter into the opportunity for council to now debate the two items that we were just discussing in public hearing. So I would invite, I believe it's Manager Mitchell that's going, oh, is it Mr. Flutman? Okay, Mr. Flutman, if you could resume your space at the presenter table. So this item is 6.1. So it's the removal of the MR and the bylaw 400.77 land use bylaw amendment, which is a land use district change from green space to highway commercial 4. Won't get into the lot designation. I think we're well acquainted with what that is. I would invite Mr. Flutman to take the floor to offer the presentation.
Thank you, Your Worship. Given that we've been at this for over an hour and we've done two presentations and two public hearings, I'm not going to spend a lot of time going through this, but for the benefit of the public, just to explain, there is a formal report, a request for decision that's come from administration to council with recommendations, two recommendations to approve the removal of the municipal reserve designation and direct administration to notify the Register of Land Titles, and that council gives second reading to bylaw 400.77 as presented. And the recommendation, if this isn't written, but our recommendation from administration is that council treat these two recommendations together and not split these actions up. If you're going to do one, do both, et cetera. So the report is before council. I'd be pleased to answer any questions that council has, and I think I will leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you. I would invite members of council if they have any questions to go ahead. Councillor Span.
Through Mayor Hibbs to Presenter Albert.
That would be Mr. Flutman, please.
Mr. Flutman, there we go. Is there a reason why it's being recommended that we remove the municipal reserve designation before we're being presented with third reading?
Your worship, the reason for doing that is so that, as I said earlier, we don't get ahead of ourselves. It wouldn't be appropriate to give third reading to the bylaw and then suddenly have, once council gives third reading to the bylaw is passed, it's done, and that change in land use district is now in the bylaw. The only way to change it is to come back with another amendment to the bylaw to undo it. So there'd be a formal process with a public hearing all over again. It would make more sense to, in our view, to deal with or adopt a resolution to remove the municipal reserve designation. That would be the signal to administration to proceed with the subdivision approval process, which is administrative, but it requires a legal survey to be done. It requires a formal approval in itself. In our view, it makes more sense to put all of those things in place. And once the approval letter is in place, giving endorsement in principle to the subdivision, then come back to council and ask council to give third reading to the bylaw, which would not require a public hearing at that point. It would simply come to council as a freestanding item for council's consideration of that. Thank you.
Any other further questions? Councillor De Bresser.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Hibbs. Through to consultant Flutman. My question is, I think you've answered it. You're saying definitely, doing both at the same time. My question is, we heard from the residents about future uses of green space. So removing the municipal reserve, would that default to green space, or would, as it is, could we use? I'm not sure how to phrase this. Could we use the land as green space under the municipal reserve without going through a subdivision? If that is clear. Sorry.
I will attempt to answer the question. So the entirety of the area, all 14,000 meters squared right now is in the green space district and designated as municipal reserve. We're only proposing to deal with a triangle at the south end that's about 4,300 meters squared, or about an acre in area. So that's the only area that's subject of the conversation tonight for removal of the MR and for rezoning. So the rest of the area will remain as MR. That's the intent. That's the recommendation. I hope I'm answering Councillor De Bresser's question.
Yeah, sorry. And I didn't phrase it entirely good at all. So just to recap, green space is the zoning, but there's a designation called municipal reserve on top of the zoning. If that's confused the matter even more.
Your worship, that's an important distinction. The land use district or zone that's municipal bylaw, and that's what a past city council has designated that land, or that's how it's been designated. The municipal reserve would have resulted from the historic subdivision process back in the 1990s. So when the subdivision of English Estates was done, or the subdivision of these commercial lands in the vicinity was done, I don't know the exact history, but at that point, this area of land would have been shown as municipal reserve on the subdivision plan. And when the subdivision was registered, the title to this land included the letters MR in the legal description. Yeah.
Councillor Span.
Through Mayor Hibbs to Mr. Flutman. So if I'm understanding this correctly, if that first motion is passed about the municipal reserve designation, but then we don't give third reading to this bylaw amendment, we'll essentially just have two parcels zoned green space next to each other.
Your worship, they would not become two parcels unless the subdivision is approved and completed. So
Which is the initial amendment, the initial motion, correct?
So the initial recommendation is to remove the MR designation for the triangle we're talking about. The second recommendation is to give second reading to the bylaw to amend the land use bylaw to change the district. So if council votes to remove the MR from this portion but does nothing further, the land will stay green space. Administration will have direction from council to ask the registrar of land titles to remove the MR just from this triangle of about an acre, if that makes sense.
Looks like we've got Manager Mitchell potentially weighing in. I know it's a little bit, it's a bit complicated because it's municipal reserve and green space, while similar sounding, are not the same.
Yeah, perhaps if I could provide a little clarification through Mayor Hibbs. Both items will go to land titles together. So basically, council is giving direction and permission to remove the MR designation. That will allow us to go and hire a land surveyor. If you look at in the agenda package, we have bylaw 400.77 in there right now with a map that is more or less hand drawn. It's digitally drawn, but it is not surveyed, so that the exact measurements aren't there. It's an approximation. So by giving us that direction, we can proceed with hiring a surveyor and doing the actual work to say, okay, where exactly will these boundaries be? And then we can include that in the third reading of the bylaw. Once the third reading of the bylaw is passed, both will go to land titles together, removing the MR designation and creating the new parcel with appropriate zoning. Does that help?
Councillor Span.
Through Mayor Hibbs. Yeah, that does help. I guess the concern I have with including these two items together, I understand why we're wanting, or why administration wants to do it, because it just speeds up the process. But the concern I have is then effectively what we're doing is making the decision tonight on third reading already.
Manager Mitchell.
Through Mayor Hibbs to Councillor Span, you are not making the decision. You could still vote the bylaw down when we bring our amendments back. You could give us direction to come back with a survey of X number meters of buffer, or reduce the parcel to whatever the case might be, or any kind of direction that you choose to provide. We'll bring it back for third reading. At that time, you could vote it down. And if you were to vote it down, then we would not send the MR cancellation and third reading at the same time to the land titles. The lands would revert to what they were originally.
Councillor Proud.
In this picture that's come up, this is what I was talking to Marilyn about earlier. Just to clarify, there's a 10-meter buffer option, 15-meter buffer option, and 20-meter buffer option. So I'm not sure if residents were clear on that. Not all of that green space is going to be, or could potentially be, commercial. It's 30% of that green space. Am I saying that correctly?
So, Your Worship, what's been laid out is approximately 30% of the overall MR area. The percentage will vary a little bit depending on what council might choose to do this evening. But this gives options to council to give direction to administration, should council wish to do this.
Very good. Councillor Span.
Through Mayor Hibbs to Mr. Flutman. Can you give a bit of a history for what brought this about? Was it the trees that were at the end of life? Were there other concerns?
I would just jump in and suggest that that wouldn't actually be an appropriate question for Mr. Flutman. He would not have knowledge of that. So that's why I'm saying that it would not be an appropriate question for him to answer. I would also reference that some of the discussion, unfortunately, is in camera, so that also would not be able to be shared. I was going to address some of that in some of my remarks. If you want to wait till I have the opportunity to do that and then perhaps a follow-up, if that would be fair. Is that okay if I remove that question from Mr. Flutman at this time?
Yeah, I would be open to that.
Okay. So I will go ahead then and just make some general comments on this item. First of all, again, I do really want to say I do fully appreciate that everybody here has taken the time to obviously meet prior, share their concerns with their neighbors, and then now come forward to council. I know that that can be potentially quite a stressful thing to do, but we do really appreciate hearing directly from members of the public. I just actually, one of the comments that I wanted to raise was one of the speakers had mentioned that the reason why this was being done was because of an arborist report. And I would suggest that I can't get into full details, and it's not because I'm trying to be deceitful, but it is potentially a bigger reason than that. And so that decisions like this are generally not so simplistic. And I would suggest that another potential reason why this was even being considered, and not necessarily this specific parcel, but parcels like it, is that it has been identified in the past as part of our strategic plan to identify lots that are potentially good for a different purpose than they're being used for now. And why would that be? Because it adds to our tax base, frankly. We all want more affordable living. We want to pay less taxes, but that means that when we have parcels in this community that are underperforming, that we wanted to identify those and turn them into what they, could potentially be instead. In this case, it's not an unusual stretch to say that that should be like its neighbors and that it is should be a C4 district. I'm not saying that it should be, I'm just saying that it should be potentially considered to be so. So I just want to give that as context as to how we got here can sometimes be a little bit more complex than maybe a simple news article. I did already raise the point saying that the neighboring C4 district, the parcels that are right next door, we saw the list of what can be permitted and discretionary. The permitted, list is extensive, and that does, again, that exists to be any of those current businesses won't necessarily be those current businesses. Those of you that have lived in this community a long time have seen parcels change ownership and then change use over and over and over again, requiring no rezoning, that they were all either permitted or discretionary uses. So something could become a gas station or it could stop being a gas station and now is something else. It used to be a clothing store, now it's a cannabis store. Those are all suitable under the land use bylaw. And then one final thing that I wanted to address that I think I really need to be clear on so that we're very fair to the prior council, as well as to this council going forward, what the process looks for when we do something like this. So in this case, we had a first reading of something that happened a while ago. And, there was concern, well, why weren't you informed? Every agenda is published, and so everybody is always informed if they choose to be as to what's happening at the city at any time. I know myself have for 10 years published what the agenda is. Now, that being said, when it comes to actually making the decision and that there is a change in use, so for example, that it's being rezoned, that automatically creates a public hearing as you had the opportunity to be at today. So a first reading of any bylaw, generally speaking, is just to get it on the books. And so almost always, probably 99.9% of the time, it will just get approved because you can't talk about something if it doesn't become part of the agenda. That's what first reading is. It's not meant to be deceitful. It's not meant to slide something by you. It's literally just to get it onto the agenda. So just so we're clear, that automatically triggers, and at the same time, in this case, set a public hearing, which happened tonight. And that is advertised. That is your opportunity to come to council, participate directly, to speak to council so that we can hear your concerns directly from you. And that's a really important part of the democratic process. And that did occur here. It was advertised. You have the ability to come. You've had that chance to influence decisions. So And one final point on zoning, I recognize that if you come into City Hall and at any time you can ask for, let's say, a map of the current zoning in this community, and that is exactly what it is. It's a snapshot. But at any time through this exact process, any parcel in this community can change. That can be residential from what is currently R1 can now become R4, which is multi-dwelling. So that can change. There is nothing that says that things can't change over time. They have. We've seen it all the time. But this process gets activated. Are there rules as far as properties being too close to each other that are businesses? No, we don't have that in place for any business. So if two competing businesses want to set up shop right next door to each other, they absolutely can. And who gets to decide who's the winner? The consumer gets to decide who that is, not government. So we do not have those rules in place. So I just wanted to make those clarifications. I wanted to do that now in this portion of the council meeting as opposed to the public hearing, because the public hearing was to hear from you, not for me to share my thoughts. But that is my thoughts essentially. I hope that does help a little bit as to the explanation. I respect that when you get told that something was in camera and I can't share that, that will be the case for this council as well when we do have the occasional in-camera discussion. I just want to reassure you that those discussions are in camera for a reason, and it's not because we're trying to hide things from you, but there are times when legally these conversations need to be, not in public. But the purpose now is to have a very public discussion where we all have the opportunity to ask questions, to make statements that we will be accountable for. And so I think I have said everything that I need to say at this moment in time. Apologize for the length of that. I hope it was somewhat informative. I will go back to anybody else on council that wishes to have a question or have something to say on this item. Councillor Span.
Through Mayor Hibbs to administration, I was curious about, I walked through the area this morning and it's very obvious that something needs to be done as far as those trees go. I'm just curious whether there's been any preliminary work on that, what would be done with those trees or what they would be replaced with, anything along those lines.
CEO Gowdy.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Span, for the question. So there is an assessment that was done in 2023, I believe, that looked at the health of the trees, and we sought quotes to, we don't have that expertise in-house, but to do some of the removal in one season. It was about $30,000. That hasn't been budgeted for or funded, and there is no plan for improvements to this green space or replacement of the trees once they're taken down.
I believe Councillor Contenti has a question or comment. You have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor Hibbs. Yeah, more just of a comment. It's a very good process, and I hope members of the public realize the opportunity they had, and I appreciate them sharing. And I just want to say I came with an open mind on, didn't have a decision at all. I wanted to hear all sides, and I campaigned on promoting business and getting business, as Mayor Hibbs talked about. We need more business to lower taxes. I think we all can realize that. But listening tonight to everyone's concern, re-looking at the size of that property, the benefits of maybe having something there, I just don't think they're there. So I think I would just like to leave it and not change the designation from MR. Thank you.
Do I have any further comments? Councillor Dykeslag.
I too walked that area last night and heard the dogs and saw that it does need some attention for sure. I came in also trying to have an open mind to this. When I read it on paper, it seemed fairly obvious that a good sized buffer there may be exactly what the area needs to support both the residents and commercial development. But the points tonight, as Councillor Contenti described, were also compelling in that we do have a number of commercial areas that are available. I do see the value of having a attractive area for grievers, those that are having attending funerals in that area. And I also say that I'm leaning towards leaving as is for now. And I mean for now, my question, I guess, is when we run short of an area or we feel that we could change our mind down the line, I don't think this is a forever decision, and I wouldn't want residents to think that it is. I think that right now we do have available spaces and places to promote, to sell, that are developed and ready to rock and roll. And we need to do our best to get those filled. But I also reserve my change of decision down the line if that is an area that would be used, but also want to recognize that a buffer, what I felt was fairly significant there, the 9 meters, and where I saw the different proposals for tree lines would be satisfactory, having walked through there, in my opinion, last night. So thank you for that.
Councillor Proud.
Thank you, Mayor Hibbs. Just to follow up to administration about the trees. So how many trees are coming down for $30,000 and there'll be no replacement of the trees? How is this green space going to be affected by that?
So I wouldn't have an exact number, but anything that was highlighted as at risk of dying within 5 years and causing damage would have been taken down. That wouldn't remove all of the trees that are there. That would remove the most mature high-risk trees, and there would be continued regeneration of the existing natural space.
Councillor Contenti, did you have a follow-up?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Hibbs, for allowing me to do that. Yeah, I was just forgot to mention one thing that I was thinking as well is that if we do leave this thing as a MR designation, that it is used for that, not used for parking the vehicles, not used for snow storage or any other thing like that, that it will be just that, a green space that can be used for all the benefits of Lacombe citizens.
Very good. So just for clarification, that first recommended motion, if it were not to pass, I'm assuming that we would not pursue second reading of the matching resolution. CEO Gowdy.
We would still recommend considering second reading so that it could be defeated. Otherwise, you have that second reading hanging out in kind of limbo for, I believe it's up to a year, during which time you could proceed without reinstigating a public hearing, which wouldn't be
Very good.
recommended.
That could potentially be seen as being deceitful. So given that, we do have 2 motions that are recommended. I would appreciate if somebody be willing to read out the first motion so that we could take a vote on that. Or I can do it. The chair does not generally make motions, just for clarification. I would move that council approve the removal of the municipal reserve designation from the identified part of lot 24 MR, block 3, plan 1820543, and direct administration to notify the registrar of land titles. I see no further lights on, so I'm going to guess no further. Oh, sorry, Councillor Span.
One last comment that I just wanted to make about this. The hard thing that I'm having with it is something needs to happen to that area. And as much as it's hard to see change with any kind of green space, if we see a lot of those trees need to get wiped out, you don't get the buffer from the train, you don't get the buffer from the highway, and something needs to be done there. I think there's a lot of cool things that we could do. But either way, that whole area is going to have to change. And it's not fun, especially if you've lived in the area for a long time. It's not fun to see that.
Seeing no further comments or questions, I'd go ahead and call the question. Please proceed to vote.
I vote no.
So that is a 6-1 vote. The lone supporter is Councillor Span, I believe. Did I see that correctly? Yes. Councillor Span voting in favor, the remainder voting against. There is a second motion if someone is prepared to read that. Councillor DeBresser,
Yeah, I move that council give second reading to bylaw 400.77 as presented.
anything further on that item? Does not appear to be so. I would go ahead and call the question. Please vote.
I vote no.
And that is unanimous. No one in favor of that second reading. So that bylaw amendment rather is defeated. That does bring us to the end of this specific item, which most of the gallery is probably present for. You are welcome to stay if you wish for the remainder of the meeting. Always love a gallery, but I definitely understand if you wish to remove yourself. I would actually think it might be appropriate to call a short recess just because of the size of the gallery. And so, yeah, so I will recess at 7:55. Returning in 10 minutes, please. All right, we will resume our meeting. So returning to requests for decision, we are now on item 6.2, CPKC Rail Crossing Upgrade, 50th Avenue budget increase. I would invite Manager Mitchell to come and speak to this item, please.
Thank you, Mayor Hibbs, and good evening, members of council. Tonight, I am presenting you with a budget increase request of $40,600 for the work completed by Canadian Pacific Kansas Rail, or CPKC. The work included replacement of the concrete crossing panels at the 50th Ave, or Highway 12 crossing. Now, in 1963, when the crossing was originally constructed, the road authority at the time entered into an agreement with the rail company that stated that the road authority would be responsible for 52% of all maintenance costs for the crossing. These responsibilities were inherited when the city assumed jurisdiction over Highway 12 in 2013. In 2024, an inspection by CPKC identified the 50th Avenue crossing as non-compliant and requiring rehabilitation. For those of you who cross the tracks at that location regularly, you may recall that the crossing was very rough. So the city was definitely in support of the work being completed. However, it was not identified until after the 2025 budget had already been approved. Due to that timing, administration worked with CPKC to defer invoicing into 2026, though the work was actually completed in quarter 4 of 2025. CPKC provided an estimated project cost of $275,864, which was approved in the 2026 budget. And then in February of 2026, so just a few months ago, the city received the final invoices and they were totaling over $316,000. That works out to be approximately 15% higher than the original estimate. CPKC did not provide an explanation when asked for the reason of the overage, noting only that the actual construction conditions affected the final costs. The city has already paid its budgeted share based on the original estimate. Tonight, I'm requesting an additional $40,600 to fully cover the city's obligation to be funded from the roads reserve, as noted in the proposed motion. And with that, I'm happy to support council in their deliberations.
Do we have any questions? Or anybody prepared to make the motion? Councillor Dykes-Leig.
Well, I guess the question might be obvious. What happens if we don't pay it?
It's a great question. I did reach out to the Canadian Transport Agency just to kind of see if they could give me some support or some feedback in this. I feel we are not the only municipality to run into challenges where, you know, projects go over budget. CPKC is great in providing us with very detailed invoicing, but I'm not on the project when construction is happening, so I can't say whether or not you needed 5 nights of a hotel or 6 hours of a backhoe or, you know, that kind of thing. So I will say that I have not received any response from the Canadian Transportation Agency. I also did reach out to a colleague at Alberta Transportation to ask them what happened when they ran into these situations, and unofficially they told me there's not much you can do. The rail company is a large entity and these agreements were written a long time ago, so they say they just pay them.
Councillor Contenti.
Thank you, Mayor. So, yeah, just a question to the acting director. I find it weird as I'm reading through it that we're paid 52%. And we have no say on quotes, no say on contractors, no say on what's going on during construction. This is totally crazy to me. And I don't know how we can change that. I mean, so it's an old agreement. Cannot new agreements be made or something? Like, we just have to keep going whatever they say. But I really find it puzzling that as a 52% partner, we have 0% say. Thank you.
Manager Mitchell.
Just a comment on that through Mayor Hibbs to Councillor Contenti. there are some places that are rewriting their agreements with rail companies, and they're coming out considerably less favorable in that the municipalities pay 100% of many of these if you're not closely watching how the agreements are rewritten. So while I do appreciate it and it chafes my collar a little bit as well, I will say it's not unusual. Also, I alluded to it in the report itself. Each of the crossings have a different agreement here in the city of Lacombe. Part of that is determined whether or not the road right of way was dedicated first or the rail right of way was dedicated first. So who's crossing who? And then in the case of this particular one, the agreement was rewritten in 1963 when we actually expanded the crossing width. So I don't even know what the crossing was that predated that, but we as the city went to CPKC and, well, CP at the time, and told them that we needed additional room to provide additional lanes for crossing. And so we're somewhat at their mercy in the writing of this agreement. So just for clarification, it's 52% for all maintenance of the rail crossing itself, and it's only 50% of the maintenance of the crossing structures for whatever reason that is. So that's the arms and the bells and all the whistles.
Councillor Dyke-Slyke.
Thank you, Mayor Hibbs. You know, I asked the question somewhat facetiously when I asked it, but do really want to indicate that I think it's fair that we hold off on payment for a while longer to get an itemized reason why the costs went up. We are responsible to our taxpayers. So some sort of explanation of why the costs went up. And it could be exactly the realization that when I do a renovation, I get a quote and it might not be quite right, but I still want an explanation from the contractor to say, yeah, materials cost more. Yes, I needed 6 nights in the hotel because the project took longer. So I think that's only fair to be able to report to our taxpayers that, and it's a fair request. We may not get the answer we want, but I don't think we give up on making the ask and then we proceed with payment.
To administration, what does that look like with this motion that's being proposed this evening? CEO Gowdy.
So to me, the motion still stands of approving a budget increase, but we've received the direction that we would be holding off on this payment of the additional increase until we get a rationale back as to the increase. That still is within the recommended motion, could be contemplated there.
Do you want to make that motion?
Oh,
Councillor DeBresser.
Yeah, no, thank you, Mayor Hibbs. My only question is, if we delay the actual invoice payment, is there any penalties? You probably won't have that answer here. You know, we take a couple of months to pay, if they're going to put another 2-3% onto the bill. That's my only concern with holding payment.
All of the invoices state that there are penalties. In this particular one, I think it actually said after 15 days. In practicality, we don't have anyone from finance here, but rarely do we pay the penalties.
Councillor DeBresser.
Yeah, just to follow up. So if we do delay it, we have the option of paying the interest, and maybe that's where, if they do charge us interest, I think that's where we'll come back to council if we want to pay the interest.
Councillor Dyke-Slyke.
So then I'll move that council approve a budget increase of $40,600 for the CPKC rail crossing upgrade for 50th Avenue funded by the Roads Reserve, with the caveat or with the request of explanation for that budget increase amount to be provided to the city of Lacombe.
Councillor Span.
Is that an amended motion then?
Legislative Coordinator Post.
There has been no previous motion put on the table, so there is no motion to amend.
Fair, yes. So that is the standing motion on the floor. Any further comments on that? Are we in the process of updating that motion? Okay. For those that might be watching, what's happening is the electronic version of the motion is being updated to reflect Councillor Dyksleg's expanded motion. And so there's just a little bit of a lag time whenever we do anything on the fly. It is now updated, I believe. Just giving it a chance to read through. Yes, it is updated with the request of itemized breakdown of additional costs from CPKC. Is the motion clear to everyone? I don't see any red lights. I'll go ahead and call the question. Please vote.
I vote for.
And that is unanimous. That takes us to our next item, 6.3, the 2026 Council Public Engagement and Events Plan. Who do we have speaking to this item? Oh, sorry, Director Hackett.
Thank you very much, Mayor Hibbs and members of council. Tonight, I'm very pleased to present you with the proposed 2026 Council Public Engagement and Events Plan and ask for council direction on other engagement opportunities that they might wish to explore in the future. The City of Lacombe conducts a range of public engagement events and activities throughout the year. The 2026 plan is intended to support council member participation in key community events and engagement and outreach opportunities. This is not intended as an exhaustive list by any means, and certainly doesn't cover all the types of public participation processes. We saw a different one tonight, for example, or engagement channels, but instead it is about the main ones that council uses to engage rather than a legislative process, and to ensure that we have sufficient time for planning preparations such as booking event space or developing display materials. Administration is requesting your endorsement for those that you wish to, as a base plan, participate in 2026. We do recognize that council is preparing for its strategic planning session, which is why this is coming a little bit later than it would some other years, and that during that strategic planning session, there may be other ideas that arise, and so you may wish to hold a committee of the whole meeting to discuss further options following strategic planning. But the report before you tonight does have a recommended list of base events and engagement opportunities, starting the one coming up this weekend, for example, the Lacombe District of Commerce Trade Trade Show this coming weekend, and then runs all the way through to events at Christmas time. Possible additional opportunities are listed in Appendix A of the report and would be available for discussion at a future meeting if so desired by council, where we could bring forward any details around dates, cost, or other resource requirements. And you may have other things you would like us to explore as well. So the recommendation tonight is that council endorses the proposed 2026 Council Public Engagement and Events Base Plan. Thank you.
Thank you. I would just make a couple of comments here and then I definitely will open it up to the floor. Just to keep in mind that this request is for the base plan. I would agree that this is probably a larger conversation that should occur potentially during strategic planning or possibly a future committee of the whole. So for the plan that's been brought forward, I have no real suggested changes other than I would say that the mayor's breakfast that occurs in conjunction with Lacombe Days is something that I would like to see changed. I am not in favor of what it has been in the past. I think that the support for that has significantly dwindled, and I have no interest in continuing that tradition. I would prefer to see something that would serve the parade at large, like for example, running the coffee and donuts and maybe other treats station that's on the staging grounds for the parade itself, for example. I think that would be a far more beneficial use of our time. That would only just be the mayor, it would be council as well, but a good time to interact with those that are participating in the parade. So that would be one suggestion that I would like to make. I also see that I don't believe that I saw farmers markets listed on that, and I'd like to see a return of those. I would say that they've been beneficial in the past, and I would support them being back on the base plan. And then just in general, I won't get into specifics as to what I'd like to see, but there are things I'd like to see. But just in general, I would like to see more opportunities to volunteer in the community and not just photo ops. Frankly, I don't like photo ops. I don't enjoy them. I think that that's like the worst thing that we do. I would like to set an example by doing things. And so that's what I would like us to look for opportunities to do, is to do more volunteering and legit volunteering. Again, not just a photo op. That's my 2 cents. Anyone else? Councillor Goings.
Thank you, Mayor Hibbs. Thank you to administration for putting this document together. I think it's really important to have a schedule that's really clear for all of us to follow for participation in the community. And I also agree with Mayor Hibbs that it's really important that we do have volunteer opportunities. It's an important part of our role. Just a question for Director Hackett. Will this document be posted anywhere for the public to read and to take in?
Through Mayor Hibbs to Councillor Goings. It's posted just in the agenda for now, but we could tweak it and have it available on our website, for example.
Excellent, thank you.
Councillor Contenti.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Hibbs. I would like to suggest, and I don't know why it's missing, but Remembrance Day, I think should always be on there, and especially that the mayor always speaks at it, and I'm really would like council as well to attend, but I mean, that's their choice, but I think that should be one that should always be on our main agenda. Thank you.
Do I have anyone prepared to make the motion to endorse the base plan? CEO Gowdy.
I just, before that motion gets made, it would be nice if it was the base plan plus Remembrance Day and the farmer's market. Those are the two that I heard tonight that there seemed to be general agreement, and then that would give us really clear direction on those, if that's something people want.
I think that would be fair as an understanding of what we were talking. I didn't hear anybody speaking against that, as well as the mayor's breakfast. It's on there, but a refresh of what that looks like. Unless anybody has opposition to that. Legislative Coordinator Post.
Might I recommend just a broad statement saying as amended?
As amended, very well. I believe I had Councillor Goings first. Yes, Councillor Goings.
Thank you, Mayor Hibbs. I'm prepared to make that motion. I move that council endorses the proposed 2026 Council Public Engagement and Events Base Plan as amended.
Very well. Councillor Span, did you have anything to add to that?
The only other ones that I was looking at, and I would be curious about how much work it would take, but I think we've got a really good opportunity with social media to engage with the public and to see that, you know, we're human and we can, you know, they can get our perspectives on things a bit more. I wouldn't expect things like the trade show debrief video or council in the city would take a lot of resources, and I'd be curious to add those in as well.
For me personally, while I agree that those are very interesting ideas, at this time, I think I'd like to flesh those out better in a strategic plan or in a committee of the whole meeting personally, because I have I have a lot more ideas on things that we can do as a council in regards to communication, as well as frankly, the city. So if you're okay with that, I'd like to just sort of pin that for later, but that's just my opinion. Rest of council has an opinion as well. Councillor Span.
Seeing as the trade show is coming up, what, this week? If we wanted to do that one.
It's on there. Yeah. It's part of the base plan.
Trade show debrief video.
Oh, debrief.
We wouldn't want to wait till after, like, you know, 3 weeks from the trade show to be looking at that one. So it'd be my only additional comment on specifically that one anyway.
Mm. Fair comment. What would you envision that actually looks like then, the debrief video?
Well, I think we get a good opportunity at the trade show to hear from a lot of people in a short period of time. If we see different trends throughout the trade show for questions that people are asking, we can have some discussion as a, informally as a council to just talk about those things and then maybe put out a video on the Lacombe page.
Okay. I'm just a little bit nervous about, there's sometimes unintended consequences of things, and we haven't really had a chance to talk about it properly. That's the other thing I'm worried about. Also because none of you have been through this, like a proper coffee with council type of situation before. What we do at an event like that is we record questions. So if somebody comes and speaks to us about, I don't know, a pedestrian crossing or dogs barking or rezoning of something, we have the conversation certainly, but we generally will record it in the book, especially if it's something that requires a follow-up. So you can just write, resident really loves Lacombe and really wishes we had another dog park. Fine, that's a comment. Another one could be, could we put in a pedestrian crossing at such and such street and such avenue? And so that would be a question. And so administration compiles that and they come back actually with a report to council that will be, that any questions will be answered. Sometimes questions can't really be answered because we don't have enough information, but, or it just captures those comments, especially if it identifies particular trends. So I just wanted to share that because you may not be aware that that's been the past practice. I assume that will continue to be the practice. So there will be little notebooks that are located at the trade show for that purpose. So yeah, I like the idea certainly, but I'm just a little bit hesitant in the execution of it. Just for things that I can't really explain right now, but that would be my only hesitation. But we can think about it. I'm open to that idea. That doesn't necessarily have to be on the plan. Okay, the motion has been made. I'm going to call the question. Please go ahead and vote.
I vote for.
And that is unanimous. That brings us to our next item under request for decision. That would be 6.4, the FCM resolution, the Federal Agricultural Research Center closures. We have our Economic Development Officer. And the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I'll try to keep my remarks under an hour because I know we've had a very busy night. Just kidding. So we were given an opportunity to present. I think everybody's had a chance to read the RFD and everybody's quite well apprised of the situation surrounding our Agriculture Research Center. But we've been given an opportunity to co-sponsor a resolution with the County of Lacombe. And it's also going to be, I gotta find the right page here. It'll also be co-sponsored by Indian Head, Saskatchewan, Cumberland County, Nova Scotia, Municipal District of Tramping Hills, Saskatchewan, and Scott, Saskatchewan. So this is a good opportunity to basically create a resolution that FCM is going to present to cease the closure of the facility. So we did work with the task force and with the county on wording. We want it to be very clear as to where we went back and forth and we debated whether we were going to put in comments regarding the pause and that situation. But we went with basically the straightforward what our ask is, and our ask is for them to cease the closure discussion and keep the facility open. So in there, the resolution is in your package. I'm here to
Someone has probably forgotten their purse, I'm gonna guess.
So as I noted, we went back and forth with the county and created the resolution, which we think best reflects what we're going to present. There is some time constraints given our council meeting tonight that we do have to have the resolution in tomorrow if approved. And the resolution does also allows CAO Gowdy to present the resolution to FCM. So I'm here to take any questions or comments on it, but in the other portion of this that we have to be mindful of is our resolution does have to match the counties because it is co-sponsor. So we do not have a lot of room to deviate unless we want to withdraw from the sponsorship of it. But here and happy to take any questions or comments.
Councillor Span, you should do this one. You should make this motion as the task force member currently.
Yeah, if there's no discussion at this point, then I will make that motion as a task force member that council approves the joint emergent resolution as presented to the Federation of Canadian Municipalities, advocating for the reversal of federal agricultural research center closures be endorsed, and further that the chief administrative officer be authorized to submit the resolution to the April 23rd, 2026 FCM Executive Committee meeting.
Thank you. Just a brief comment on this before I call the question, unless anybody else has anything to speak to. But of course, we know that we've already had an RFD come before our provincial body, the Alberta Municipalities. The RMA, the Rural Municipalities Association, has had the same through Lacombe County. So very good support provincially. Now we're upping the game and taking it to the federal level with obviously support of other communities that are in similar situations as us. So this is just another advocacy tool, a very strong advocacy tool that I'm quite excited about the opportunity to be a co-sponsor on. People ask me this all the time. How's it going? How's it going? The fight's not over. We're still doing everything that we can to get the word out that this is not over. It's the closure is not acceptable, and that we want research to continue at that site and sites like it across the country. Now is not the time to be pulling back on agricultural research. It's a time to invest in that. And a closure of the research station is the exact thing that we don't want to see, and that shouldn't be the case. And so I'm really proud that we are bringing this forward at FCM. Councillor Dykeslag.
I appreciate those comments, Mayor Hibbs, and I still applaud the leadership being shown by our municipality in this area. My one question is why is this not unanimous? Why are the other municipalities not participating in this motion, or were they invited to by us and we just didn't hear from them?
As far as I can speak to, because Lacombe County was leading the reach out to the other communities, I think these are the ones that they heard back from, and I'm not sure where the rationale as to why they did not elect to participate. Thank you.
All right, with that motion on the floor, and I see no other lights on, just making sure there's nothing online. No. All right, I will go ahead and call the question. Please vote.
I vote for.
And that is unanimous. That brings us to the final item under request for decision, 6.5, 2026 fire station land profiles. Director Piche is going to speak to this item. I'll give you the floor to do so.
Thank you, Mayor Hibbs, and good evening, Council. Before Council this evening are the land profiles and the mock deployment results that were to be returned to Council as a result of the discussion from the February 24th or 23rd Council meeting. There has been an extensive process that has brought us to where we are today. In 2022, Council of the Day began directing administration to search for a location to place a new fire station. A number of stakeholders participated in the process beyond our City Council and our administration. They included Lacombe County Council, their administrative staff, fire personnel, and provincial stakeholders. In total, 28 sites were reviewed and considered throughout 2023 and 2024. During that time, administration conducted surveys, completed land profiles, obtained land appraisals, reviewed land agreements, explored legal and development constraints, and engaged with affected organizations and landowners to assess feasibility. In October 2024, Council directed administration to begin preparations to move forward with the Woodland Drive property site. The work began to remove the addendum clause that reserves the land for cemetery use and to subdivide the portion that would be used solely for the fire station. This work involved the Director of Cemeteries from the Government of Alberta and support from many administrative personnel. It took 10 months to complete that process. Further community engagement took place, allowing administration to provide alternatives for removing ball diamonds or for the removing of that ball diamond and to identify additional replacements or redevelopment options. Much of that work was completed in 2025. Neighborhood engagements also took place to discover what the operational impact at the current location had been. A survey was conducted with residents in the area, and it was determined that they enjoy having the fire hall nearby and feel safe with it there. A functional element design engagement was conducted throughout 2025 with the same stakeholder group. This past August, Council chose to further explore additional locations. Administration was directed to bring in an emergency services specialist to assist with this process. Administration has been working with Dark Horse Emergency since October 2025, and the results of the data analysis that Dark Horse completed and the functional element design that the architects completed were presented to Council on February 23rd in 2026. From that meeting, Council directed administration to review the following sites. 6005 50th Avenue, which is the Lower Michener Bowl, 4410 Woodland Drive, and 3910 63rd Avenue, but the North Airport lands. Since the February 23rd meeting, the fire personnel have completed the mock deployments to understand the response times from each site, and administration has completed the land profiles for each location. I'll first show you the video created for the mock deployments, and the times that are shown in the video are also in the report that was provided by Dark Horse in the request for decision package at the end of the agenda, and it is also included in table 1 of the land profiles. Just to provide some context about the mock deployments, the way it started is that each member who was responding started at their house, and then they would receive a tone or a test call for a mock incident where they were told to respond to the potential location that they were being tested. The personnel would then record their drive time from their house to the test site, and once there, they would prepare to get on an apparatus that was being staged at the mock location. There would be at least a 3-minute delay for each of them to get their turnout gear on and to get onto an apparatus and be ready to roll out. They would then record their drive time from the test location to one of the 4 different responding locations. And of those 4 responding locations, it was selected to go to Royal Oak Village, the downtown core, the Highway 2 truck stop west of the city, and Iron Rail Industrial Park, so that we got a good practice of county as well as city responses. I'm going to ask Mr. Tomnick to play the video, and that'll provide you a perspective of what is experienced when they respond to a call. Lights are activated at this time, yes, and sirens. This graph is the time to take from their houses to that site at Woodland Drive. Again, lights and sirens are activated on these responses. And then this is the graph from the time it takes to get to the site from the mock station. And these are all the combined averages based on the turnout time as well as the response time. So that's the video for the mock deployments. And so the next thing we'll be moving into are the land profiles. The first section of the report for the land profiles highlights the considerations to take into account when selecting a location. It speaks to the response times, access to and from the fire station, residential impacts, and location restrictions. The land profiles themselves were created in the same format for easy comparison. So each land profile has the following elements. They have site drawings, utilities in the area, the water master plan that outlines the servicing, water pressure and flow in the area, the land costs, planning and development considerations, National Fire Protection Association considerations, and estimated costs. All the properties, though, are city-owned properties, therefore there won't be any land purchasing costs. And going into the utilities, the water pressure is very good at 4410 Woodland Drive and 3910 63rd Avenue, which is the airport. But it's not as good at 6005 50th Avenue, the Lower Michener Bowl. There's some major stormwater challenges at that location, as it is a low-lying site and requires significant stormwater infrastructure to support any development on that property. Unfortunately, ATCO Gas will not provide us an estimate for the installation of gas lines, but we do have a placeholder of $20,000 for the extending of a gas line onto each property. The Lower Michener Bowl pardon me, and 4410 Woodland Drive locations are zoned community services, which it means that there's no land use changes required if one of those sites is selected to locate the fire station on one of those properties. The airport, though, is zoned AP and would require a land use change and a possible subdivision if that land is selected as the site for the fire station. There is no concern with each spot through the National Fire Protection Association, or the NFPA. And when reviewing those standards, they focus more on the building rather than the site itself. Now, each site does have specific considerations that make it difficult to select one location. For example, the Lower Michener, remedying the low-lying area for the stormwater and sewer servicing could be a possible cost-prohibitive concern. There's also access constraints of the four lanes of traffic, as we saw in the video, that traffic doesn't always stop when lights and sirens are activated. And there are also, there's a concern with the ladder truck if they're coming out of the Lower Michener and they have to make a right-hand turn south on 58th Street. There's a very tight turn there, and that may need to be addressed. At 4410 Woodland Drive, there may need to be some stormwater system upgrades to redirect overland runoff to Woodland Drive. There was already work completed to remove the abandonment clause and subdivide the property. And the city has already spent $358,000 redeveloping Ball Diamonds as a replacement for that that was initially selected for that location. There is also work that was completed for the North Area Structure Plan that has been updated to allow emergency services at the north end of the city. And there are still perceived concerns that that area is too congested. However, the mock deployment video does show that it is maneuverable, and there was a traffic impact assessment that states that the fire station does not pose a constraint to that area if located at that site. At 3910 63rd Avenue, which is the airport, there are no utility servicing concerns at this location. The water pressure and the flow rates are also very good at the site. The airport does lease the land to the airport land is leased to the Flying Club until 2042, and then it can be extended to 2067 at the Flying Club's discretion. Negotiations with the Flying Club would be needed if that site is selected. The north area or the area on the north end of the airport is located adjacent to residential areas. The site access would end up being off of Terrace Heights Drive. When vehicles are parked on both sides of the street, it may seem congested, but it is maneuverable. There is an airport master plan that is being developed in 2026. And the fire station would need to be included in that master plan if it is also selected as that site. The North Area Structure Plan has already been amended to include emergency services in the north area of the city, so no changes would be required on that regard. Again, the land is zoned as AP and would need to include fire stations in that land use, or the property may need to be subdivided or rezoned. Lastly, height restrictions might be a consideration. The site may be subject to aviation-related constraints, as the airport lands are regulated by the Government of Canada and Transport Canada. That location, the building would be limited to a 30 to 35 meter. Now, I don't think that's a concern for the building itself. That would be a 10-story building, but the ladder truck does go up 100 meters or 100 feet, sorry, not meters, or 30 meters. And that might not be able to be fully extended on that site and may have to conduct testing off-site. We will get that verified though for May. So the estimated costs for land servicing in preparation for each site, so at Lower Michener, or 6005 50th Avenue, the costs for that one would be around $877,000 to up to $1.11 million. 4410 Woodland Drive is estimated for future development at $21,000 to $41,000, but need to still consider the fact that we have completed $358,000 of ball diamond upgrades which increases the cost for that site. And then 3910 63rd Avenue, the North Airport, would be estimated between 51,000 and 71,000 for land preparations. At this time, we're not asking for a decision on which station to select, but that council acknowledges the receipt of this report. The 2026 Lacombe District Chamber of Commerce Trade Show is coming up this weekend, and we recommend that council takes the opportunity to gather more public feedback. Administration will summarize and collect all questions, concerns, and feedback and bring it back to council for a meeting in May, where at that point we would like to request a decision at that meeting. If council does require more information on any particular property, we ask that you make an additional motion of what you would require along with the recommended motion. There is an example of what a motion would be to request further information at the end of the report. And so at this time, the recommended motion is that council acknowledges the report as received and directs administration to bring back to council in May 2026 a summary of the public consultation from the 2026 Lacombe District Chamber of Commerce and Trade Show and Marketplace. And we're here to support your further discussions. Thank you.
CEO Gowdy.
Sorry, one last thing that I failed to include was that we intend to, if council moves ahead with this, between now and the May meeting, also poll the fire services membership, the folks actually doing the responding about the 3 sites and get their opinion. I just want to make sure you're aware of that, so we're not showing up with it in May unexpectedly. But we've spoken with Chief Fleming about that as well, and they're prepared to action that over the next couple of weeks.
Very good. Any questions or anyone prepared to make that motion? Councillor Proud.
I'm prepared to make the motion.
Please proceed.
I move that council acknowledges this report as received and directs administration to bring back to council in May 2026 a summary of the public consultation from the 2026 Lacombe and District Chamber of Commerce Trade Show and Marketplace.
Very good. Any further questions or comments? Councillor DeBresser?
Yeah, I just had a comment. Like I feel that, you know, the trade show is this week, so I understand that. Pushing it back to another May council, I was trying to think what feedback would I get from the trade show that would either alter the data that we've been presented, either through the Dark Horse report, their practical mock exercises that the firefighters have done. I think the previous council, I just think time is money, and I think this has been like a 2-year process, and that's probably cost us in terms of inflation on the actual build. I think as a council, and I said this last time, the data-driven decisions are needed, and I feel comfortable with the data. I feel comfortable with the site servicing reports. Great report, great detail. I wasn't expecting that. Site servicing costs are another component to the build. I think all arrows are pointing to Woodland Drive. I'm comfortable making that decision tonight, but if council wants to get more public feedback, I'll go with council as well. But they're my points at this time.
Councillor Span?
2 comments on that, I guess. I would definitely be opposed to making a decision on that tonight. I'd like to get feedback at the trade show on some of this information. I did want to mention to administration, I love this report. There's so much data, and I'm an analytic. It was amazing. It did get me thinking that I would like to see some of this data for one location across the train tracks. I know that would be that there would be obviously some public pushback on a location across the tracks, but I've been getting public pushback on the Woodland Drive location every time I talk to someone about it. So that is an amendment that I would like to make where we request additional information of the location east of the tracks.
I would suggest that it could be a separate motion, not rather than an amendment. I think that was mentioned earlier by Director Pichet that additional motions could be made that support requests for additional information. So if it's okay, I would like to proceed with Councillor Proud's motion, which is that first initial one, and then we'll come back to you, Councillor Span, with a potential second motion, if that's understood, if that's okay. Very good. All right, so returning back to the motion that's on the floor by Councillor Proud in relation to, sorry, here we go, receiving the report. Are there any final questions or comments on that? I see no lights. I'll go ahead and call the question. Please vote.
I vote for.
And that is passed unanimously. So Councillor Span, I think using the wording that they even suggest here at the back, that you could potentially look to add another motion. Sorry, just one minute before I do that. CEO Gowdy.
Just that it's 8:59.
Oh, yes, and I thought of that earlier. Very good. Yeah. So there's another motion that I've been entertaining right away to extend beyond 9 o'clock. Anybody willing? Councillor Goings.
I move that we extend our meeting beyond 9 p.m.
I'll call the question on that. All those in favor, I don't think we have it on here, so we'll just do a visual. All those in favor of extending beyond 9 o'clock, that is unanimous. Thank you, CEO Gowdy. I did notice that earlier and then I forgot to go back to it. Now that we've established that we have the ability to go beyond 9 o'clock, back to Councillor Span, if you're wishing to make that or not.
Yeah, I would like to make that a motion that we request additional information for the location east of the tracks where we get a report similar to what we've seen tonight on it.
I guess my only question on that would be just the time, like that would not be obviously ready for this weekend, so that would not be considered as part of the public feedback. For example, that would be something that would only then come up, I assume, in May when the rest come back. Okay. I guess I'll let other members of council weigh in on whether if they have any comments or questions on that. Councillor Dyke-Slag.
My only weigh in is I will be opposing the motion. I think we need to move on this. We have waited long enough and to find another location when we had the opportunity at our last meeting to list that location. I'm not ready to entertain another investigation, more trials. I'm ready to move on the 3 locations, so I will be voting against.
Anything further? Do we have the motion ready to legislative coordinator post?
If I may read back the motion, make sure I have it correct. Councillor Span, that councillor directs administration to return to a future meeting with further information on the fire station location east of the train tracks.
That's correct.
CEO Gowdy.
Merely a point of clarification to the mover. Would you be looking for an additional fire station land profile write-up only, or would you also be looking for mock deployments from that site?
I think for the sake of time, I would just be looking for the land profile. And then if we like how that looks, then we could move on with doing a mock deployment.
Councillor Dyke-Slag.
If this gets voted in favor, and you know how I feel about it, I don't think you can do one without the other. You have to have the full information. If we say we're going to get a land development, then we're going to do new trials on this area. We're now looking 4 months down the line. And so do it all at once. My opinion would be do it all at once if that's going to be the favor of council, and get it done so that we have informed data on all then 4 locations going forward so that we can make a decision.
Sorry, legislative coordinator Post, did you have something further?
Oh,
Don't see any further lights on. I think unfortunately I will be voting against this only because I do feel that we've had opportunity to investigate this at this point and we did not, and I do not wish to do so at this point. Again, that's only my view on it. Councillor Span?
One last point on it, on this is that we paid $70,000 for a report from Dark Horse. This location was the second one listed on their report, and we chose to go with the 2 locations that have been in conversation for previous councils and add one that was actually lower on the list for Dark Horse. So I guess what my question would be to council is, if we're paying for $70,000 for a report, why aren't we using that data?
I do not see any further lights. I will go ahead and call the question. Please vote.
Yeah, I vote no.
And that is a vote of 6-1 with Councillor Span supporting the remainder against. That takes care of that item. That does then now move us to notices of motion, of which we have 2. We'll start with 7.1. For notices of motion, just for those that are watching, this is something that would have been brought forward at a previous meeting, letting the notice be held that we will be now debating a motion brought forward. Today is the date of 2 of these motions. Both are actually brought by Councillor Dyke-Slag. I would invite Councillor Dyke-Slag to read out the first notice of motion and proceed with rationale as to, if you wish, as to why you brought forward the notice of motion.
Thank you, Mayor Hibbs. Thank you, Council, for entertaining these 2 notices of motion. Not understanding the notice of motion process, I did prepare a document that I could hand out that does give that background information. I didn't know if I was to send that ahead of time or at this meeting. I can certainly just read to it, but if you would like a paper copy too, I'll just hand it in either direction. And you can either just listen or listen along. I will try and be brief. I know our meeting has gone long. Sorry, here's a couple more this way. Our meeting has gone long this evening, but I do believe that these are 2 very important notice of motions. My first one was to move that we ask our mayor to write a letter to the government of Alberta on behalf of the City of Lacombe residents to advocate for the government of Alberta to pause implementation to the recent changes to the AISH program and the Alberta Disabilities Assistance Program, encouraging the government to undertake a consultation process. You will see in my background information that I don't pretend to be an expert in this area whatsoever. I have learned from residents and in my own research why that this maybe was an appropriate motion to make. My biggest areas of concern is that there was no meaningful consultation by my definition of consultation. The announcement was made, 2 weeks given for notice for stakeholder feedback and a quick survey that many people didn't know existed. And then we went ahead with the changes that'll be implemented in July. The second part of consideration is the impact. I asked council to consider having Mayor Hibbs ask the government to provide social and economic impacts to the changes. In my research, I'm finding the changes could impact our residents negatively that use AISH or disabilities. For example, the monthly rate reduction will significantly impact our folks that are on AISH by $200 per month base, and they already are in a poverty level with the amount that they're given per month, as we understand it to be. Instead of $19.40 a month, on the new program, the ADAP, they will be giving $17.40 a month. Also, there's a reduce or a removal, not a reduction, just an absolute removal of cost of living indexes. Thirdly, there's a loss, and this is very important, loss of the right to appeal. Individuals in the current way the legislation is going to be tabled, as I understand it, individuals have no right to appeal their placement on the ADAP. If the new AISH medical review panel determines that they are ineligible for AISH, that decision is final and cannot be repealed or appealed, which denies due process to those individuals. So we're counting on a panel to get it right the first time, and we know that that isn't always the case. And fourth and last, I think the definition around employability is not clear in the current legislation being proposed, and there needs to be a better definition, and of course, disability groups weighing in on that definition. My understanding of the proposed changes is the government feels like Alberta has had an influx of people coming to Alberta because our AISH program is Cadillac. And, you know, there is research out there that says that's not the case. There's actually less AISH income folks, statistically inaccurate, that is inaccurate data, and that there's less people on income support using AISH, ETW, and BFE, which is expected to work or barriers to full employment cases, than there was in 2019. So I encourage council to support the motion to at least have public consultation or further consultation process in regards to this, asking people with disabilities, advocacy groups, community partners, and medical professionals to have an opportunity to weigh in properly on the decision that Minister Nixon will be putting on the table in July. Thank you. And just in case you needed to know where this came from, it was from citizens that asked me to bring this to your attention. If you have any questions, I can't pretend to know everything about this, but I did rush through my definition and hope you consider supporting this motion tonight.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments on this item? Councillor Span?
Well, I agree with the sentiment of this, and I actually would love to see some pushback on this. My question is more in effectiveness of going this route versus bringing a resolution forward to AB Munis. Right, I feel like that would be a better path to go with something like this, rather than, hey, let's, from the city of Lacombe, send a letter, right? Has this ever been done before, where we send a letter on provincial issues like this, independent of AB Munis?
I can only speak for what my experience is. I would say, generally speaking, not so much, and for various reasons, which I was going to talk about, not to say that I'm not supportive of the idea, but I would say that this is not something that's been commonly practiced in the past, where a municipality, like the Lacombe is a specific municipality, has sent letters like this to the province on provincial policy or provincial programs, but not to say that it's never happened. Did you want to answer to that?
Yeah,
Okay.
if you, pardon me, sorry, my on or off?
You're
There we
on
go. Part of the reasoning for the proposal of asking our mayor to do so is many municipalities are. So Lethbridge, Camrose, Medicine Hat, I believe, Red Deer are all asking their municipalities, their mayor, to write letters on behalf of this for their residents, because it impacts their residents in their community. And so that was part of the reason I went this route versus another. I was following what other municipalities are doing.
Councillor Contenti, I believe you wish to speak.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Councillor Deislav, for that great research you did. And yeah, I think it's a good idea. I think the mayor has some, not responsibility, but, you know, has some pushback that the mayors can have of each municipality, whether it be the city of Calgary or the city of Lacombe. And so I think it's a great idea for the mayor to do so, and I fully support it.
Very good. I will just give you my comments on this. First of all, now that I've seen it, I really want to commend Councillor Dykslag on the background for this item. I think that's excellent. Feel free, definitely, if anybody is bringing forward a notice of motion, to share the materials ahead of time. Absolutely able to do that, because then it gives us a chance to review them prior and ask questions. But the way that it was done tonight is perfectly fine. So I did want to, this is something I'm struggling with, because of course it is something that's very profound, but how do we, as a municipality, how do we take ownership of that? And I think that the big question is that we don't, but let me explain. So of course, AISH and this new program, DAP, is a provincial program and policy decisions lie with the GOA. However, I think that it's fair for us to recognize that there's potential unintentional downstream impacts in housing and employment in particular. I think it's worth recognizing and pointing out to the government that we have limited support services compared to larger centers and lack the ability to absorb big changes in policy or programming like this. Strong provincial programs help reduce pressure on local systems. And in this case, we could make the argument that it is increasing pressure on local systems. Residents moved to the DAP, the Disability Assistance Program, may not now have sufficient funding to remain housed in Lacombe, and the employment that would be necessary to top up their income, because that's the point of the program from my understanding, may prove hard to find in small communities like Lacombe. So those are very real realities that I think that we have fair comment on. So I think that I would be in support of writing this letter. And again, thank you for the background information. Again, that's my opinion. I'm looking for council consensus on this, but I just put those comments out there. I do not see anything further for comments, so I would assume that we're ready. The motion has been read. That is the exact motion that was brought as a notice of motion. I would go ahead and call the question. Please proceed to vote.
I vote for.
And that is unanimous. That takes us to the second item under notices of motion, 7.2, again, also brought by Councillor Dykeslag. I would invite Councillor Dykeslag to read out her motion and speak to it.
Thank you, Mayor Hibbs. I appreciate the opportunity to present a second notice of motion. Again, asking our mayor to write a letter to the government of Alberta on behalf of the City of Lacombe residents to express disappointment regarding the recent provincial budget announcement, which provides only status quo funding for the Family Community Services, FCSS. I think this one is a little bit more near and dear to our heart, or not, nor that's the wrong way to say it. It is more relevant and more on the tip of our understanding because it's been presented at Alberta Munis a number of times where we've had conversations about FCSS funding not keeping up with things like population growth and need. And because we contribute a percentage of our tax dollars to FCSS, it is a different kind of look at this one. But basically, we know that 5% increase over the decade is far being 5% increase to funding is far not keeping up with the pressures. We know from our own local statistics, which I've provided here, that we have had a 35% increase in 4 years for people trying to navigate annually the FCSS office. We also have had more than a double in 3 years of those asking to be a part of the voluntary tax program. We know inflation costs have not been included in the FCSS funding, and we know that the increased complexity of social needs in our community is rising. Mental health, addiction, family stability, social isolation, and municipal pressure for us to continue to subsidize or to, to fund this very, very valuable resource in our community. Municipalities must fund at least 20%, and we know that we fund over the 20% threshold. So again, I just asked you for consideration that we then let the government know that we need to see that funding increased because those services are needed in the city and the community of Lacombe for our residents. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Councillor Dykeslag. Do we have any comments on this item? For me personally, I would say this one was a little bit more straightforward because FCSS, while not a City of Lacombe entity, obviously functions within our community. We have a member that sits on the board. Again, it's strong provincial programs help reduce pressure on local systems. The City of Lacombe has a history of over contributions because we do value the work that is being done. We see the benefit that is being done there, which helps stop other societal negative things happening. So it is worth the investment for us. And I think, again, it's reasonable for us to be advocating to the government to be living up to the responsibility that they have in this specific field. So I am willing to support the the motion as made and willing to write that letter again if I have council support to do so. Any further comments or questions on this item? Motion is on the floor as read. I'll go ahead and call the question. Please vote.
I vote for.
And that has passed unanimously. Congratulations on 2 successful notices of motion.
They won't always probably be successful, so thank you.
They statistically, they won't always be, but very good job. Okay, well, that brings us to the end of the public portion of our council meeting this evening. Just before we prepare to move in camera, I will note that our next meeting dates are April 27th, May 11th, and May 25th, all being regular meetings of council. I will entertain a motion to move us into the in-camera portion of our meeting. Councillor Dykslag.
I move that we move in camera at 9:18 PM.
So moved. No lights. I'll call the question. Please vote.
For.
And that is passed unanimously. We are now in camera.